Okay, all right. I think we made it. We're going to click over to the Facebook stream. We're going to try to initiate Facebook. Let's see. Boom, there it is. Hello, everyone out there in the strange realm. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Please spam the chat with endless poop emojis if you're able to hear my voice out there. Out there in a very strange digital realm. Hello, hello. And so I hear there's like a 15-second delay on YouTube now. I wonder if that's true. And so we shall see. Hello, everyone. I see you. Here we are. I think it's working. And here we are once again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here. A little bit of a mildly unscheduled, or maybe Wednesday's the usual day when I do these not so usual live streams. But if you're tuning in, wherever you are in the world, thank you for being a part of this now moment. I believe it's still 2021, and we are here live at the School of Multidimensional Intuition. If you're new here, please let me know if this is the first time you've just randomly, or I guess seemingly randomly, right, just jumped into this strange live stream. But if you've been here before, let me know what part of the world you're from. Even if you're new, let me know where you are from. We've been hearing from people all over the world the past few months. In shocking ways that I truly did not see coming. If you would have told me that I was going to be doing this about 5 or 6 years ago, there's no way that this would have happened. I would have clearly destroyed it on some level. I think Spirit sets up things like that for us, like in the background in our sort of spiritual journey. They specifically will put kind of blinders over the energy bodies or just over our own path at certain stages, so we don't know what it is that we're doing, because if we did, we'd surely screw it up. or maybe not. I was talking with my friend Henda earlier today, and just about situations just like that. That's what we call a 6 of Swords moment in multidimensional tarot. We call that the 6 of Swords. The times in your life when you're meant to have faith and push ahead, especially when you don't know where you're going or what it is that you're doing or what you're even called to do there in the moment. The 6 of Swords will show up for people and let them know that they're being guided, quite literally guided in the energy of the moment. And so we've been having some 6 of Swords moments, let's say the past week or so. A lot of you guys know that we just came back, or rather we just went to the state of Florida here in the US for a really amazing event called Starseed Adventures. And I'm going to start out today by saying this was the #1 best conference that I have ever been to. Those are probably big statements, but it's not that I've been to, like a ton of conferences. I think it's probably the 6th conference that I've done, maybe the 4th in which I've presented. There might have been more. I have a pretty bad memory with stuff like that, but yeah, Starseed Adventures in Cocoa Beach, Florida was one of probably the pinnacle experiences of the last year for me. It was a very, very rare moment. It makes me look forward absolutely to what's coming up. And so we're going to be talking about that a little bit here today. But yes, hello everyone out there. Piscean Soul, how's it going? We have Sky live in Florida. Hello. Nice, thank you from Greece. Thanks, Piscean Soul. I mean that very sincerely. Thanks for tuning in from Greece. Jewel Heart and Soul, what's going on? Live from Switzerland. Susan Worthington, Atlantic City, New Jersey. Neatsby, Northern Ontario, out there, frozen, I'm sure. Susie O'Hara down in Australia. Thanks for being here, you guys. Laura Lee out there in Wisconsin. We have Holland in the house. Well, I love it. Southwest Ohio. Oh, my Lord. I love it. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for being here. Danny Souza live from Wisconsin. Thanks, you guys. I mean that very sincerely. And we have another person from Germany. Keep going, you guys. I love it. So what we're going to be doing here today, as usual, is we're going to be talking about a few random or seemingly random things going on the earth plane. And also about, as you guys will know if you've been here before, a few of the events that are coming up. And I did not announce it on the live stream here today, but we're going to be doing a few tarot readings before we get out the door as well. So that's coming up in a little bit. Hello, K-Knight from England. What's happening? Thanks for being here, you guys. So like I just said, we just came back a few days ago. I think it was day before yesterday. We came back from Cocoa Beach, Florida. We had embarked, or rather we left, I believe it was on the previous Wednesday, the 10th. And some of you guys saw a random live stream that I had done and then accidentally deleted right after, but I kind of played it off like it wasn't an accident. But there was too much glare and I accidentally deleted my live stream. But anyway, all that said, we had some wild experiences upon just getting to Florida. It was a trippy thing. For the first time in my life, I had the experience of getting seemingly flagged by TSA. It was a really weird thing. It was almost like they took a special notice of me from the moment I walked in the room and made me go through security a couple times. They made me open all my stuff, like in this very strange way that was a little bit awkward. And so just very, very unusual. And then as a result, our bags had been lost and sent to New York, which I guess is very common, right? For people all over the world, it happens, but it had never happened to me. And it turns out, I believe it was because for those of you guys that had seen the other live stream that I did a few days ago, you'll have already heard this, but our bags were lost and then, graciously returned a little bit over 24 hours later, but they didn't even put the little paper that said they had searched everything, but they had torn it all apart. Someone had gone through every single thing. They had even separated the lining of the suitcase from the from the actual case itself. So somebody had taken a very, very hard look at all of the stuff that I had brought. It was a very strange experience. And I think it was probably sparked by this weird laser pointer that I had brought out to Florida that it was just like almost a high-priced laser pointer that I had bought online, but it looked really weird. Like if somebody saw it, they would be like, "Dude, this is some kind of a device." And so everything had been totally torn apart, but they magically returned our stuff just about 24 hours later. Strangely enough, totally untouched. And so it was a strange start to that experience. It was also frightening, when you're traveling to do a conference and out of nowhere, all of your stuff goes missing. And usually I'm one of those people that never checks bags. In fact, I hate checking bags. I don't even really like flying. I'm not like one of those traveling haters, but I think especially for people that are super empathic, it can be a potentially incredibly difficult experience because, and I would say, especially for me, and maybe this is a little bit of a vulnerable, kind of self-exposure, but like a lot of you guys, I've been in a big bubble in my home for the past year, right? A lot of us are still in that bubble, not really by force at this stage. I've just kind of like internalized over the past year with a lot of the work that I've been doing and all the craziness out in the world. I've just been kind of existing in this strange little bubble here in LA in our strange little apartment. And so I will say, for one of the first times, it was rather difficult heading out there in the world, but it's also, I guess, the first time, or rather the second time, that we have traveled a distance since the COVID live action psychological operation began. And so, yeah, energy is way, way different out there right now. And it was a bit frazzled. People were a bit crazy, but we made it through. We got all our stuff back. And then upon arriving to the event, I have to say there was a very tangible field of energy that existed around that hotel. And it was interesting because as we were winding up for the event, there's a little bit of a chat group where some of the organizers and everybody were just going over their own experiences and talking about stuff. And someone had talked about how, they had noticed there was this bubble or this field of energy that had been placed around the hotel. And at the time, I was like, yeah, sure, of course there is, totally. I didn't really pay much attention to it. I just kind of accepted it as being a thing because it is very, very much a thing. A field of energy will be built preemptively around the site. It's part of the just kind of the fourth density activation process where all time is now. And so even before certain events will take place on the Earth plane, just kind of like the energetic alignment within the environment will actually anticipate an event that essentially has already taken place. But here on the third density plane, or the third to fourth density, we'll have to allow those things to play out. And so there was already a huge field of energy as soon as we got there. And if you haven't been to conferences before, a lot of people have felt this. Oftentimes, as soon as you go in there, there's this very heightened field of energy. There's kind of heightened everything, heightened emotions, heightened thought forms. And for a lot of people, when you start getting into that big bubble of all those energies and all those empaths, and especially all those beings that literally show up there at those events, I've noticed that a lot of people get really pressurized really, really quickly. And what I mean by pressurized is as that energy comes flooding in, or as you enter that sort of, we could even call it a little bit of a pocket dimension. When you go into events like that, all of the sort of just inorganic or non-native emotional or thought form density in your body will become very pressurized. It's almost like things start to pack in there very densely and very tightly, and the energy body can become super, super just tense. People get triggered. All of our old wounds rise up. A lot of people, after a day or so, they just feel very intensely. And this is something that has happened to me at every single conference I've been to. I would say at the Dimensions of Disclosure conferences was absolutely the worst. I mean, just totally turbulent energy flow. A lot of people were going through it. Although it was a great event, it's just you will absolutely feel the sort of turbulence and the waves and the emotions and the thought forms of everyone there. And so as we got there, just intense, crazy, crazy energy. I would say in this case, I was greatly blessed to not have an emotional reaction. And I had spent, a couple of weeks really winding up, getting ready for the presentation that we did. And so, it seems like for once in my life, maybe I was a little bit more prepared. Maybe I would say what I was not prepared for was, well, honestly, actually something very, very positive. There's also been a phenomenon that I've seen at a lot of these sort of ascension or disclosure conferences in which, you get a bunch of experiencers all like together, you get a bunch of psychics or intuitives or researchers all together. And, in any given scenario, there's going to be a wild collection of egos and agendas and ideas and social mannerisms and, just all kinds of wild stuff. And I have to say, one of the things I was not prepared for at Starseed Adventures was the utter lack of negative ego. A lot of times you'll go to these events and, maybe even you'll want to talk to speakers, or you'll see people that you see on like YouTube or something, and you'll be like, hey, there's that guy that talks about this or that. And, oh man, because a lot of people, we will watch each other and we'll see our faces on here. And then you finally go and meet somebody in the real world, right? You go and meet somebody in the real world and they're just totally different. And I'll just say it because this happens to a lot of people when you actually meet the people that you watch. And I don't mean this from like the celebrity perspective, but from those that connect regularly on social media and that we're a part of this sort of network and this group of beings. And we only ever see our faces, you only see the version of yourself that you choose to present to social media. It's always very different from the real version of you. One of the things that really shocked me at Starseed Adventures, at least within the speakers and the presenters that were there, was that it was one of the first times in my life where I noticed that people didn't seem to have a really dense social barrier. And it was like you would see every single speaker totally integrating and talking with everyone that was there. It was like there was a much different vibe that I think is important for people to be made aware of because, I mean, first off, they're going to be doing more of these events. But second off, I think we're coming to a stage in which people are able to relate and like connect and to experience this creative energy on a much different level. And it actually shocked me. Having done a few of these, I went in there expecting that there was going to be all kinds of like social posturing and weirdness. And, a lot of people, I'll just say it, you guys, there's a lot of people in our community who they seem really cool online. And then when you go and talk to them in person, it's like they won't even see you. You know what I mean? They'll just like, boom, they just go right past you. They won't even acknowledge you. Or there's just this weird like ego barrier that shows up in the actual physical realm. I was unprepared for how open that would be. And it was one of the rare times in my life in which I think I got to experience just a very, very open social environment and just this sort of field in which everybody was kind of existing all, it sounds cheesy, but all together in the moment. And it was a very beautiful thing. I truly pray that everybody in this world, or the people that watch this live stream, get to have an experience like that, in which you can enter a social environment of people who you know are having the same experience as you, and that are feeling the same things, that are listening and interested in the same things as you. And then you can go into that environment and you can totally coexist. And it's a truly beautiful thing. And it's also an awkward thing, because everyone shows up and everyone has their stories and everyone has that version of themselves and everyone has their experiences, and you can't talk about anywhere else in the world or with our friends and our family. And we get around this huge group of people and it's like, it's like everything just comes out, and all the wild stuff and all the pressurized emotions. And it was a very, very cool and beautiful thing to see. Really, really good. Really, it was a very healing experience. And yeah, I am deeply, deeply grateful to Liz Laurie and the entire team that put together Starseed Adventures. Absolutely, 100%. I mean, truly. And yes, thank you, Kimra. We would love it if you made it to the Sedona one. I think they're still working on the dates for the Sedona one. It might have got rescheduled. I don't know what they are, but as soon as I know, I'm sure they will announce it. So Sedona's definitely coming up. But yeah, it was an incredible experience. I would say out of the presentations that I saw there, the absolute, I'll just say it, the absolute favorite was probably Tony Rodriguez, his Sunday presentation, just about his experiences with the secret space program and just all the wild stuff that has happened. Absolutely, absolutely amazing. But there was a person that I think really took the whole thing away for me, just really like just nailed it. One of the most sincere and authentic kind of beings that I've seen in a very, very long time, and that was Ivan Teller. I mean, just an absolutely true original being, I think, existing here in the world. Very, very unique. If you guys have not seen his channelings, I would say check him out. And I say this as a person. Check this out. Get ready for the contradiction. I am very, very, I'm just not into channelings. I am not a person that consumes that material. But there are people that do it, and they do it in a way that is very authentic, and it seems to be without the shades of third density ego that seem to get people caught up in these sort of mental filters and these blockages and identities. And one of the things we all got to see as a huge group, I mean, as a crowd, was just, you know, the manner by which Ivan Teller connects with spirit, and it was incredible. I truly, truly enjoyed it. I mean, a very, very unique thing. And so we got to see a bunch of really cool people. There was another incredible moment. We went to Princess Janae. She's a remote viewer with the Farsight Institute. And she did a workshop, I believe, on Sunday morning. It might have been Saturday afternoon. I don't know what day it was, but she did a remote viewing exercise there. And here's the thing, I have my own kind of, well, it sounds cheesy, you guys, but I kind of just organically started remote viewing, and it sounds dumb, but literally accidentally, I tried to do it with somebody online a few years ago. And I was instantly able to, which was shocking. It was before I actually did any psychic work, and I actually kind of freaked myself out. And yes, I had a bit of beginner's luck at that time, and I had to learn some techniques afterward. But what I learned very, very quickly was that I really, really could do it. And I didn't follow any sort of specific techniques. I did not rely on any step 1, step 2, you know, high level, low level info. I did not go with any of that. I just went with exactly what I saw. And during her presentation, it was a trip, because she actually did a remote viewing test, and she was like, okay guys, I'm gonna show you guys some slides. I'm gonna show you guys some slides, and she had us remote view the slides ahead of time. And it was the second she said, I'm gonna have you guys remote view some slides, I knew instantly what it was. It was the pyramids, and it was the Sphinx, and I saw every single thing in the image instantly. It was shocking. It was one of those rare times when you actually get to notice the exact moment in which a person's energy sends out the image or the communication or whatever it was. I saw her send it out. I saw the image go out, and I actually felt her body telling people what it was as well. It was like two different layers of psychic communication. And what's wild is I nailed it. I mean, absolutely nailed it. And so once again, I think it confirmed for me the work that we've been doing with the classes and kind of my own work, which I already do on a daily basis. And I'm not trying to like toot my own horn with that, but it's a very cool confirmation in which you get to encounter another person's energy, another person's modality, and another person's frequency in a public setting in which you are specifically asked to remote or psychically view a piece of information on their screen that hasn't been shown yet. And just using my own kind of version of what I do, I mean, we were right there. It was, oh, Lord, an interesting moment of victory, you know, when you're like, yes, we totally got it. So anyway, the reason why I'm talking about that is because one of the things we're starting to do at the School of Multidimensional Intuition is in the coming month, I'm beginning a very, very particular type of training program. And it's the first time I've ever done a thing like this. It was inspired directly by Spirit through an experience right before we went to Starseed Adventures, where I was shown one of the primary things we're going to be doing in the future. And this is a very particular group of individuals that exist on the Earth plane. What I was guided to do was put together a program, rather a pilot program for 12 individuals in which we were going to be doing a 6-month program made up of 12 sessions over 6 months, 12 private sessions over 6 months, mixed in with every other week. We do a private closed group meeting with just the individuals in that closed 12-person container. And we're going through a 6-month process of working individually with me, doing clearings with me, and then also working as a little bit of a psychic process group as well on the weeks in between to truly figure out what your psychic skill is, to have absolute personalized not face-to-face over Zoom, individualized instruction and clearing specifically for you, not so much from the group class level, but specific instruction. And what's cool about that is over the 12 sessions that we're going to be doing, people are going to get a chance to choose. Do they want to start learning more about tarot? Do they want to start learning more about energy transference? Do they want to start learning more about this or that or whatever their own specific skill is? And so one of the ways we decided that we're going to make this program truly, truly unique is, you know, first off, it's 12 sessions, a number of groups mixed in with that. And then we're also going to be giving each one of the 12 people an astral cartography reading with my wife, Nora. Because one of the things we learned, especially at Starseed Adventures, was that she has developed an incredibly interesting hybrid process to kind of chart where people's path is going from a more astrological perspective, not necessarily purely astrological, because she uses a lot more systems and just a lot more stuff. But so what we're doing is 12 individual sessions, a number of process groups with this entire specialized group. And then in the very beginning, everybody's going to get a private chart reading with Honora so that you can create sort of like this framework for what you're going to be doing over the next 6 months. My prayer is that's going to help people understand their skill, because some people are here to be hypnotists, some people are here to be energy clearers, some people are here to be, you know, they just want to be readers, some people just want to learn how to heal their body. But we're coming to the stage in which we can do this very specifically and very individually. And so to make it even better, the other really awesome thing about this program is that for those that are joining it and they want to send a sample of their DNA, check it out, guys. This is where we go even farther than anybody out there right now is going. One of the other things we've been doing, for those of you guys that know, is I'm using Rife technology in conjunction with the energetic sessions that I'm doing. And over the past 2 months, we've tested it with 7 individuals now, in which we've been using individuals' DNA and putting them into a Rife transmitter, and through the process of quantum entanglement and just pure scalar frequency, which will persist from pole to pole all over the planet, we found that you can create incredible shifts in people's bodies and their systems. It's incredibly useful for detoxing and helping balance the chakras. And so in addition to all these sessions we're going to be doing, for the people in this program that send in just literally a fingernail, we just need a little tip of your fingernail, and we're going to be putting them in the transmitter. And so every time we do sessions, not only are we going to be transmitting multidimensional energy. We're going to be using scalar energy. We're also going to be looking at your astrology and going through group processes at the same time. My opinion and what I've been shown is that this is going to fundamentally alter certain people's lives here on the earth plane. There is a whole group of people right now who are activating it into an entirely new role. And a lot of us, we don't know what it is. We know we have to, but we don't know how to. We don't know what it is. And so the idea is that I want to create something very specific and individual that allows people to go through that process, both individually and also with a group. And so for those of you guys that are interested, I see some people in there saying, yeah, thank you for being interested. It was a big leap of faith when I decided to do this. And so it's significantly more involved than anything I've ever done. And so we already have a couple people signing up for this process. We announced it at Starseed Adventures. But one of the interesting things is I think I will have to interview people very briefly before we begin this process, just so we can make sure, you know, what people's goals are and where they're headed. But yes, it's starting in April. And so let me know if you guys are interested in that. It's a highly, highly specific training program. And I'll be honest, I gave it kind of a cheesy name. It's really like a timeline expansion process. And what we're doing is creating multidimensional operatives, people that have the ability to truly perceive the frequency of truth, people that have begun the process of really unpacking their missions. And I say missions because there's multiples of them. And then we go through this, you know, physical, frequency-based, spiritual, emotional process. And so, you know, if it goes as planned, we're going to be creating a big shift. The other cool thing is this will probably be one of the only times I ever say this. Just got the stimulus from the Biden administration, and I immediately bought more scalar devices. I immediately bought more technology that we're going to be using to help people with their healing processes. The other kind of timeline that we were shown as I was leaving Starseed Adventures was that I'm going to be creating just a physical place where people are going to be able to come for physical sessions in the coming years, but much more of a kind of what I call a frequency hub, in which we're going to be working with tons of people through not only spiritual, physical, but the frequency-based energies that we're working with right now. And so anyway, I'm getting a little bit redundant, but yeah, we're recruiting 12 operatives for a special mission. Truly expand your energy in ways that up until this point on the earth plane have been thought to be impossible, through a multi-level journey of hopefully truly tapping into everything that we chose to be when we come in here, or at least becoming a bit more familiar with it. And so you guys can tell as I'm talking, I'm getting a little pulled out here. I'm seeing your comments there. Thank you for all your comments, and thank you for being interested. There are 12 spots. This is what I was exactly guided to do, is just to open up 12 spots. I think that's as many as we can go, because it's a lot of very, very individual work. I will say it. I feel it's a little bit like an infomercial, but one of the cool things we're also doing with everybody in this program, because I'm going to tell you, I will just say it, everyone. Yes, it is going to cost a bit more than some of the other stuff that we're doing, but the cool thing is you will also get to go to every single one of our classes during that whole process, probably for the whole year. I'm just opening it up for people that are truly, truly wanting to invest and be a part of this thing. And so, totally. What's up, Aaron Powers? How's it going? The 12 around one. There you go. Good to see you. How's it going out there? But yeah, we're going to be doing it. We're creating some multidimensional operatives and training people on a very specific level. In addition to that, as a lot of you guys know, our tarot class is starting in just about a week. And please remind me in the future, everybody, not to start scheduling classes around events, because, yeah, I didn't really have that much time to promote it. Although we do have a good number of people coming, but we absolutely are ready for it. For those of you guys that want to join our tarot class, we're starting on the 28th that's next Sunday, and it's 5 weeks long. We're going to be unpacking everything in tarot. We're going to be giving people some tarot spreads, and even if you don't want to be a tarot reader, This is one of the gateways toward opening up your own native intuitive abilities. There's this really wild activation process that comes in when we just begin to unpack and understand ourselves through the lens of multidimensional tarot. So that starts on March 28th. And I realize I don't think I put it in the description. So you guys get to watch me click off the screen. I'm gonna put it in the YouTube chat. I'll put it in the YouTube chat. Because I don't think StreamYard lets me post on Facebook while there it is, boom. I don't think StreamYard lets me post on Facebook while I'm doing live streams. I don't know why. So if you're on Facebook, how's it going? I don't know if there's anybody watching on Facebook. I feel like Facebook for the first time is starting to shadow ban me or limit me, because we go over to YouTube now and a bunch of people roll in. But on Facebook, it's a little weird. Or maybe just the Facebook generation slowing down, you guys. It's okay, right? It happens. Everything kind of comes to a close. But yes, thank you for your questions. Anita Rose, absolutely. There will be a discount for Patreon members. The other thing that we're doing with this program is certain people are going to have certain needs. And the thing is, I'm trying to create it so it's going to be flexible for people. And so I'm going to announce it on our website and do another live stream next week when I get everything posted on the website. We're going to allow people to make payments just like always. But I mean, I will say it now. It's a lot more of an investment in process and time and money. And so I say this for people who are truly, truly dedicated. You're going to know if it's right for you. But I'm going to show you guys all the details in the coming days. So thank you for expressing your interest. I mean this very sincerely, because it's one of those things where I was like, I don't know, maybe people are going to be into it. Maybe they're not. We'll see what happens. And so thank you for receiving that. Piscean Soul says, are there free spots? Absolutely. There's 10 free spots right now. So far, we got 2 people that signed up. So, which is a beautiful thing. I'll be honest with you. I announced this at Starseed Adventures, and it was a gamble. I was like, if anyone notices, I guess we'll know that it was appropriate. And immediately it did. So I want to say, publicly, thank you to Spirit for inspiring this process. And thank you to the people on the Earth plane who are interested in really, really jumping in. I see some questions here. We're going to get to them before I go on a crazy tangent. Susan Worthington, thank you for your question. She says, this may be a strange question, but if something is tracking or attached to that person's DNA, would your treatment with the Rife transmission also affect that being? Boom. Really, really good question. Thank you for that. So there's a number of different forms of Rife treatment and broadcasting that we're using. There is a scalar field process, which, we just purchased one of those, which is a true scalar field generator. And by my understanding, there is a possibility with the true scalar field that if 2 people within that field, and one of them has a very serious illness, there is a slight chance that not the illness will transfer, but the vibration, and in some cases, the symptomology empathically can transfer over. Now, the reason why we are able to use more than one person's DNA within a different form of Rife treatment, we're using a DNA transmitter. And so what you do is you take each individual sample and it is placed within a container and then placed within the transmitter itself. The reason why we are able to do this without cross-contamination, and I actually tested this with my wife and me and a person just maybe about, let's say about 100 and so miles from here, where we live as well, where we put everyone in on the same transmitter. And it was for symptoms that the third person had that we did not have. Number one, there was no transference, but the difference is in this case is that we're not going to be using in the training program, rather, we're not going to be using the Rife treatment protocols to necessarily combat disease. We're going to be using it for detoxing the body and also for activating the chakras, because one of the things I found is that it's incredibly effective for opening up density in your chakras. And so to be very specific, what we're going to be doing through the 6-month process is putting people on an ongoing detox and chakra balancing, maybe along with solfeggio frequencies, which what I've noticed already, the solfeggio frequencies can make some people feel very stimulated. but we're going to take it on a case-by-case basis. And so we have found that it's absolutely possible to not create transference. And for anyone that wants to look up the spooky 2 Rife generators, they have so much documentation about the process and the technology, and how it works, and when transference occurs, when it doesn't occur, which forms of technology lend themselves to the transference, all those things. And so I'm not trying to say that from the perspective of an expert, because honestly, you guys, I've been using this tech for only a few months, and it has shown such incredible results that it showed itself very, very quickly as being absolutely effective. I mean, just the very way that I became aware of it was like a bolt of lightning hit me, and I was like, I have to get this device. It was like this crazy, like it was like a weird, literally like a bolt of lightning hit me. But so yeah, we're starting a very particular training program. 6-month journey transforming the body. And so hello everyone once again. Hello Henda, Karen Caldwell, good to see you. Jewel Heart and Soul, Amber Ray, Space Cat, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. You made it back from the conference and you survived. I have a feeling everybody's okay. Hopefully the little one was okay as well. It was very, very good to meet you. And I want to say thank you to everybody that shows up in this strange YouTube chat here today. Thank you for those of you guys that rolled through Starseed Adventures. It was amazing to meet you guys. And so, yes, thank you, Miriam. It's good to see you. Absolutely. We're also going to be offering a individual Rife and energetic detox program. It's separate from the 12-person training program. What this is going to be is, I'm kind of calling it a month-long detox process. It will necessitate the receipt of people's DNA. That's probably going to be the game changer. Once we're able to, get somebody's fingernail into the Rife transmitter, you guys are going to notice a shocking difference in your detox. That was my first experience with it, was using it remotely. We did not even plug it into our body for the detox. And it was incredible. It was a very intense detox, actually. And so one of the other services we're going to open up now is about a month-long process in which what we're going to be doing is putting individuals on a detox program, in addition to certain things that we're going to be working with. Physical maladies, certain stuff that's going on. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis, but we're going to be doing a month-long program where we're going to be meeting each week. We'll do private sessions weekly. And then we're going to be having people running Rife frequencies throughout that entire month, through the whole month. And so my prayer is that it's going to help some of the members in our community really, truly detox the body on a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level. Because there's a wild effect that occurs when you're broadcasting scalar wave frequencies into the body, and you're toning, and you're using multidimensional energy. It's an absolute whole other level of activity. And at the very beginning, I was a little bit like, whoa, are we totally ready for this? Are we really doing this? But people keep showing up. I mean, just in the past week, we received, I think, as I came back, I had 4 different DNA samples. People were given to me at the conference, giving me their fingernails and stuff. And so it's an interesting thing, but it feels as if Spirit is directly guiding the process of what we're doing. And so I'm excited to see where it goes. It's a whole new layer. Anita Rose says, will the detox program include diet and energy work? Absolutely. The diet part is going to be up to you to kind of implement and go with. What I can do is recommend certain herbs. I'm not a naturopath, but I can, we can talk about things that may be appropriate. And so what is essentially designed to do is to create an energetic detoxing protocol using the terrain frequencies of the Rife generator. What it does is it detoxes the body over an 11-day period, which is fascinating. I've worked with it myself. We worked with it with 2 clients now. My wife has done it. And so it seems as though when we use that detox protocol along with energetic sessions, it's shocking. For some of us, I think it's also going to be a very difficult detox, because what we find is, myself and also other people, we will get a detox reaction. And so there's going to be certain ways in which we're going to have to set up this month-long program that my prayer is it's going to allow people to experience just a different level of clarity in the body. And so I'm excited to see who's jumping in on that. We've already had a lot of interest, so I figured it was appropriate now to offer it as an actual process. So thank you for your interest, guys. Thanks, Susie O'Hara, for rolling through. It's good to see you working with the spooky technology as well. It's fascinating, totally fascinating. It was like I picked it up in like some kind of weird thing. This little switch flicked off in my head, and it like I've been obsessed with it literally every day since then. It's a wild thing. But for some of us, I think in the spiritual community right now, that sort of level of obsession can be a gift, a true gift, because some of us will like utterly throw ourselves into something. So hopefully it's going to be it's going to work out. Thank you, Karen Caldwell. It's good to see you. She's still in Florida. Oh wait, no. Yeah, there you are. Still in Florida. How's it going? Space Cat says, I'm still exhausted. I feel you. I feel you. Hang in there. Lots of changes going on. Thanks, Amber Ray. Thank you, Anita Rose, Jackie G. How's it going? Kim Rupp, Tim Ozengar. Hello from West Covina. Beautiful. How's it going out there in West Covina? Not too far away. All right, so a couple other things. We've ranted on long enough about all these strange frequency-based things. We have a very cool and very accessible event coming up this weekend. Yes, it is in the Patreon group. If you're like me, people start talking about Patreon and your hackles kind of get up and you're like, oh man, this guy wants me to join his group and, you know, show up every month and pay people and stuff. And there's a lot of people in the spiritual community that kind of foster and create this sort of semi-energetically dependent kind of container vibe, which is also a thing that you can do. But I want to be straight up. I'm not one of those people that kind of cultivates that. And, you know, people will show up and they'll sort of get what they need from the stuff that we do. And some of them stay and some of them will take off. And so for anyone interested in going through a group energy clearing process and a presentation on one of the newest upgrades that's happening with the human body right now. We talked about it a little bit at Starseed Adventures. Actually, I technically forgot most of what I was going to say about it at Starseed Adventures and kind of winged that slide. But we're going to be doing the real version of it this Saturday in our Patreon group called the Blue Flame Collective. A lot of you guys already know about it. A lot of you guys are in it. But if you're not, you can join it and come to our event this Saturday, March 20th at 1 p.m. Pacific on the Earth plane here. We're going to be doing a presentation on empathic interfacing. What's empathic interfacing, though? Let me tell you. Right now, one of the primary upgrades that's occurring within the human body has to do with what essentially kind of a human-based frequency generator that begins to develop in the body through the heart chakra, through a number of meridian structures, and through the overall vibrational changes in the physical body itself. We begin to shift into, yes, a very crystalline-based structure. But along with that, the body begins to vibrate differently. And certain chakras begin to operate on a little bit of a different level. The heart, once again, being the primary transmitter for the human body, begins to open up and allow us the ability to begin, you know, and this is always a fun buzzword, sending psychic messages, or what we call empathic interfacing. Later on in the future, people are going to understand this skill as true telepathic communication, which is a 100% real thing. And for some of us here on the Earth plane, it's going to be the primary form of communication. By the time we leave these physical bodies, many of us on the Earth plane are going to have the ability to communicate entirely telepathically with people in the now moment. Yes, I'll make it even weirder, all throughout space and time. But yes, also here localized on the Earth plane. Myself and many others have already been experiencing this phenomenon with shocking specificity. And so one of the things we're going to be doing this Saturday in the Patreon group is a little bit of activation and group energy clearing and talking about areas of the body that are activating. The mission is to help everyone come to, number one, a greater level of understanding of what empathic interfacing is. And number two, begin to create a frequency base or facilitate the creation of a frequency base in the body that allows people to continue to use that sense in your own way. For some of us, it's going to be incredible. For some of us, you know, it could be a little bit different. Each one's going to, you know, get their own specific frequency from it. But For those of us in the Patreon group that have been going through these processes month after month, this represents a really, really cool gateway into the next series of stuff that we're doing, which is much more specific in terms of certain abilities and what are really, really, truly upgrades that are showing up on the Earth plane. And so, yeah, thank you. Empathic interfacing. And so, because I don't know if I put it in the description, I can't really remember. You guys are going to watch me click off the screen here. I'm going to put the link here in the description as well. And so the cool thing is you can just roll through our group. You can join it for $10 and roll through. And the cool thing is you can cancel it afterwards. So even if you don't want to jump in on somebody's Patreon group, but you just want to come to this meditation and be part of this activation process, you can totally come on Saturday rather, and yeah, you can just cancel your membership later if you don't want to stay. But it's a really fun and accessible way to be a part of what we're doing at the School of Multidimensional Intuition. And in most cases, we'll end up posting it later. So don't worry if you're one of those people that's like, no, man, I don't want to join that thing. I don't want to pay $10. Don't worry, we'll probably post it later. I usually post most of our stuff. And so yeah, join us if you are interested. You can see the link there in the description. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any other questions. Thank you, Piscean Soul. Yeah, I'm definitely, for better or worse, I think it's part of my duty. I have to go through a lot of shameless self promotion. Given the amount of that a lot of other people do on live streams, I guess I don't do it that much, but I guess it's really like just the primary method in which I tell everybody about what we're doing. Sometimes people get weird, but yeah, thank you for being here, guys. Let me know if you have any other questions. Kim Rupp says, which device did you get? I got the scalar wave generators, the actual scalar wave generators. I'm really excited to use it. I've been using the Generator X and several remotes, and we have an XM2 generator as well, which are incredible. Honestly, you guys, I feel like it's just one of the forgotten wavelengths of treatment. And I think as we move through these fourth density gateways, our access and the level to which we're able to palpably feel and make use of these non-physical energies are growing exponentially. I mean, it's exploding, absolutely exploding on the Earth plane. I think that's, once again, the signs that we are in a true energetic renaissance period, kind of like that actual golden age that people are talking about. This is the beginning of it. So, it's real, y'all. We're living in the golden age. Thank you, Piscean Soul. That was a thing that happened at Starseed Adventures, I will say, the whole telepathy thing. It's the first time in which I did a presentation and we, directly engaged with the process of sending energy. For those of you guys out there that are wondering, what's one of the ways or the places on the human body that as you're starting to unpack the frequencies and the abilities, or just that sort of innate sense of empathic interfacing. There's a couple of places on the body that you can focus on, or in some cases pay attention to, that can help you connect to a person's energy a little bit differently. And one of those, and I'm going to take off my glasses for this because they're super glary, but it is the left eye itself. And I'm not saying that from, I'm not trying to play off, the whole like left eye club and all of the weirdness and the multidimensional stuff around the left eye, but the left eye itself in the organic human body, and I guess we could also say inorganic human body, is an actual portal. It is one of many portals on the human body, but right now, the left eye, and for those of you guys that are able to tune in and are willing to receive, oftentimes when I'm doing live streams and some of the other stuff, you are able to receive what I call kind of like an empathic image, or kind of like a slideshow that will play in your body as like an emotion or a message. Sometimes it's just a feeling. And so you guys can pick those up a little bit easier by focusing on the left eye, or rather for me, it's much more easier to pick up that information focusing on the left eye. So it was the first time that we did that in a public event. It was the first time I did that at a public event. Oh, yeah, I guess I'll go there. And as soon as I said that in the event, it was like I got flooded with all sorts of energy and thought forms from people trying to connect. It was cool. And honestly, in the moment, it was this incredible rush because I was like, oh my God, it's working. But it was also a little bit awkward because I found myself just kind of almost losing my train of thought, almost losing what I was about to say, having a little, it was like I had to pause for a second before I started speaking because I had to kind of, almost differentiate. There was so much that showed up. And so basically what I did is I was like, focus on my left eye for those of you guys trying to understand, telepathic frequencies. And it was crazy because even as I would blink in that presentation, even in the split seconds when I would blink, I could see everyone's eyes. And that it's like you don't really have time to focus on that in the moment. And I guess this is the first time I'm really unpacking and talking about it. But it's a trippy thing. As I would blink my eyes, I could see like just dozens and dozens and dozens of sets of eyes that were still positioned out in the room, in the hall. Basically in the placement where all the people were. It's like it's like the eyes are still open psychically after we blink. It's one of the ways some people out there are going to continue to unpack telepathic messages. There's a number of things or sort of images or feelings or sensations that are going to show up in the body that are going to tell you that you're truly connecting. We also have this with sometimes beings or ETs that we will encounter in a meditative space. We will feel eyes, or we will see eyes, or we'll connect with a person. And it's a very, very interesting thing. You'll see some intuitives and psychics out there will have you send them a picture of your eyes or like a picture of your face with your eyes open, and they'll use that to connect as well. And so, it lends a lot to that old saying, the eyes are the window to the soul, but they literally are. And that is a real thing. Before I knew what that was, I think this was in like 2018, which, wasn't that long ago, but I was still, just going through so much more learning. It's, we're always going through learning, but at that stage, I would wake up in the morning, and I was actually living at my sister's house at the time in a different part of Los Angeles. And I would wake up in the mornings, and right as I was waking up, before I would open my eyes, I would see eyes inside my head, but it was like thousands of them. And that's a little bit of a, I'm going to be honest with you, it was kind of creepy the first time it happened. And it was one of those things where you kind of don't want to look at it again because, you're like, whoa, was that there? And then you close your eyes again and it's still there. And you're like, whoa, I don't know if I want to see that. It was a very shocking thing. I would say that it did not come with any negative symptoms or anything like that, but it was one of those things where you're like, whoa, there's something there. And it wasn't necessarily there before. And it taught me a lot, man. That I started to have these experiences at that time when at that time I was working in a shop and I was doing face-to-face readings with people. And one of the things I started to kind of use at the time to show me when I was really connecting with their energy is I would start their reading and I would tune in and I would close my eyes. And if I could see their face and their eyes in front of my face when my eyes were closed, or at least some version of it, I was like, oh, it's working. And so, looking at it now, I don't necessarily think that would mean that it's working, but I think what it does mean, at least for me, is that I had identified one of the techniques or the ways in which I was psychically connecting with other people's energy. And so we're going to be talking about that on Saturday as well. Thank you, Anita Rose. She says, I have a totally unrelated question. Have you heard of the Sophia Code by Kaya Ra? Yes, I have heard of it. I don't really know that much about it. I've heard of it. My feeling of the vibration is, as I see the word and just based on, very, very limited knowledge, it feels like a legitimate piece of information or a legitimate piece of material. I would say, like with anything, it'll probably have some like discretionary filters or areas in which the author's kind of, consciousness might have not, we always add our own bits of ourselves in there, and some of them are going to be real, some of them aren't, but it definitely feels like a legit thing. I don't have a negative feeling when I look at that, Anita. A lot of times I will get kind of like, people will say, what do you think about this thing? And I will know nothing about it, and I'll just look into the energy and it'll feel dead. And here's the thing, it doesn't mean that, there's anything wrong with it. It doesn't mean that, it's not good energy, but sometimes I'll just perceive it and I'm like, there's nothing there. I don't know, it just feels dead. And so Sophia Code does not feel dead. I think it feels like something that I will probably investigate more. But yeah, I don't know. Amber Ray says mine had been twitching all day. The left one. Yeah, that is a thing, man. The eyes will be twitching, all kinds of stuff. Thank you, Martha Fino. Jewel Heart and Soul says, I see eyes while falling asleep often, sometimes just one. Yeah, yeah, weird, definitely. Totally. I saw that once too when I was in Mount Shasta. We were at, for those of you guys that know Eric Rains, we were at Eric Rains's Golden Frequency Retreat a couple years ago, and this being came to me that was just an eye. It was just an eye. There's a long story along with that. Maybe one day I will tell the whole story. People would freak out. Space Cat says, I missed how to join the 6-month detox. I have not posted it on the site yet. I have to write up all that stuff. And so the detox is going to be a 1-month process for people that want to just do a month-long detox. And it's like, I think it's going to be 2 sessions every other week during the month-long detox process. And then there's a 6-month training program, which is 12 sessions, a bunch of process groups, cartography stuff. Also, I mean, so much going on. And so that's the training program. But I think I'm going to be able to hopefully make it a little bit interchangeable for people. So totally. Space Cat said, I had a weird twitch in my left eye. That's a good sign. Hopefully, hopefully it was a good sign. Thanks for joining our Patreon group. I appreciate that. Jason says, you'll have a close-up of their face appear really close, right up in your mind's eye, as close as they can show you who they are. I agree, Jason. I've seen that several times with a lot of people. Their eyes will show up, their face will show up. Sometimes after I do sessions with people, we will be having a conversation like, oh, Lord, sometimes for days. And sometimes it's positive. Sometimes it's just ongoing and just laborious. And sometimes it's a beautiful thing. And it is absolutely 100% real. Not everyone perceives the sending and receiving of psychic energy in that way. But we all will. We're getting there. You're literally getting there. I've had there was points when this was also when I was working at that shop, actually. There was so much dirty energy there. In hindsight, it's such a cool thing that I don't work there. I'm truly blessed that I got to transition away from that. But I used to have that when I would there was a few times when I did clearings at this shop that I worked at. And I was talking about this weekend at Starseed Adventures, but there's certain people where I would sort of close my eyes and start to connect with their energy. And one of the ways I learned that they had an entity or some sort of an attachment is there was a few cases in which as soon as I connected with their energy, I would close my eyes and some being or something would go like shoot right toward me, like they would rush me with their energy or something. There was one in particular where it was like this fully red person. It was like a red, weirdly distorted. It wasn't even I couldn't say it was a man. I shouldn't even say it was a person. It was like this red being that probably looked semi-human, and it just shot at me so fast. It was like, like this crazy thing came right at me. But the thing is, it was so fast and sudden that, granted, I guess this is possible. Had I not have experienced, I would have been like, what the hell? That's not possible. But it was almost like it came in so fast and so hard that I didn't have time to react to it. And for some reason, I think that caused it to pass instantly because I didn't have a fear reaction. I was just like, whoa, damn, where you're like, whoa. You're like shocked, but not in a fearful way. And I have a feeling that it was designed to create a fear response that would cause the practitioner or possibly whoever was working with them to be like, oh no, I don't think I can handle this. But it's almost like it was so fast and sudden that I was, I didn't have time to react, and therefore it didn't affect me. And I think it passed by as a projection very, very quickly. And so thank you for your comment. Jackie G says you have a one-on-one with me tomorrow. You know what? I think I saw your emails. As far as I know, I might have responded. A lot of people email me. Don't worry. All my sessions are on Zoom. So for future reference, we only do Zoom sessions. I don't do phone sessions with people in international countries. We don't do Skype. So don't worry. We will be sending you a Zoom message in the evening and you'll be getting it. But yeah, absolutely. We will make it work. Don't worry. No worries at all. Piscean Soul says, did you feel intense heat? When I encountered that apparition, I actually don't know. I do not know, but I have felt some wild heat when I'm connecting with people. Sometimes been dripping with sweat at times. It doesn't happen to me so much anymore. What I've noticed is that a lot of my reactivity when it comes to energy work, when I'm working with clients, comes in the form of emotion. For some people, they get physical sensations. Some people see visual things. I just learned very, very early on that it was an emotional wave for me. Thank you, Wild Mood Swings. Did you tell your client about the experience of the red being? Yes, absolutely. I wish I could tell you their reaction. That's wild. I feel like the reaction that this person had was that they instantly kind of clicked into another aspect of their story, which, you know, to be totally honest, is one of the mental programs that we find a lot of people that will come in for clearings will have. It's like a very, very intensely loaded experiential story through which people have learned to identify or just basically, you know, define their energetic experience. And so from what I think in this case is I was like, yeah, there was like a being or something that showed up, and they're like, yeah. And then they just kept going on this sort of tangent, which is, you know, that's totally a thing. Some people won't even be able to receive that. I will say there have been other times when I have perceived such things with people, and I do not believe it is actually appropriate to explain that in the context of the session based on where they're at or what's going on. I think it's one of those discretionary things that we learn to do as practitioners, in which at certain stages there's information that might not need or will need to be expressed in a little bit of a different way. I think the reason for this is, or rather one of the reasons for this is, even though I will perceive an apparition or an entity or some sort of a thing with people as being a certain thing, does not actually have anything to do potentially with what that energy or that frequency could be. In many cases, it's wild because we also talk this about Starseed Adventures. In many cases, what we find is a lot of negative energetic manifestations are basically born not only through the trauma that exists within our physical body, but what happens is it sort of metastasizes through our own internal experiential vocabulary, meaning that we use the terminology and the understandings and the concepts that we have previously learned in an effort to unconsciously identify the energy that's in the body. And so in some cases, people will perceive it as something utterly different. And I'll be like, yeah, there's this giant tentacle being wrapped around your body. And for them, you know, they will perceive it as something else. But if you're to, you know, give that information in a haphazard way, in my opinion and experience, it's in certain cases, it can create a potentially inappropriate level of influence and just kind of, it's like interjecting so much stuff into a situation for people that are still trying to unpack and learn about energetic discernment. It just almost gives too much. And it's like TMI. And I found that in the beginning when I was doing work like this, and, you know, I would tell people all this stuff and I would say all kinds of stuff. And yeah, there was this entity, there was this thing, and there was this, you know, et cetera, et cetera. What we find is that with some people, they would immediately adhere all of their energy into what I had perceived and instantly regard that as being absolutely real. And it was weird because I would get clients that would come in and they'd be like, yeah, I worked with this other person and they said that I had a 12-foot tall Wendigo mixed with a white Draco reptilian that was attached to my sacral chakra. And it was so, I'll just say it, it was so ridiculously specific. It was like somebody went online and read through a bunch of bloggers and just grabbed a bunch of symptoms and images and told their client that they had these crazy beings. And so this person was coming to me to clear off all these crazy things that when I actually looked in there, I was like, well, it looks like you got a lot of trauma and a lot of stuff left over from this or that and all these feelings and experiences. And I have to admit, and I'm thinking of one case in particular, the person did not believe me. And they're like, what? But so-and-so said I had this, and they said I was a wizard 26,000 years ago, and that's why I have this or that. And it was an awkward thing to unpack, but I think that it was helpful because it taught us that, you know, I've said this a million times, one person's reptilian implant is another person's unexpressed childhood trauma. They can be both one and the same. And like Piscean Soul says, I think that was Piscean Soul, they will manifest it. No, that was Jason. Jason says they will manifest it also. Absolutely, 100%. I see this with clients that I'm working with right now on a regular basis, and that they will just overly adhere themselves, especially with secret space program stuff right now, you guys. And please, this is not me debunking. I've had a number of people approach me and be like, what are you trying to debunk secret space program? That's ridiculous. I've never, ever done such a thing. But what I will do at times is, you know, very, very softly explain when we are, in my opinion, grabbing onto distorted misinformation and using that distorted misinformation to define our world experience or our worldviews. We see that with a lot of people right now who have really, really, like, really buried themselves in a lot of the secret space program, super soldier, disinfo, misinfo campaigns. And I have people coming to me saying, they're in this secret space program and I'm in this program right now, and that's why this is happening. And then you look at the energy and you're like, oh, yes, that is. And in certain cases, you have to utterly go along with the narrative, because when you try to, pull people away from the one narrative that finally identifies their experience here on Earth, and you try to pull them away from it, even if it is absolutely apparent that it's just, we're perceiving our experience through the lens of something we have just learned about, people can become very, very offended. So I think as a person that does this professionally, we tend to walk a very interesting line with when and how and where and under what conditions we will adhere to sort of the story that people come in with. I've had other people that have come to me, just so absolutely obsessed with the idea that they were here, from some planet and something and some specific mission. And it was like their understanding of that allowed them to utterly disregard and let their entire life go to shit, because they were like, but no, I'm here because I'm part of the gray. I think this person was like, I'm part of a search party of Zeta Grays that came here to the Earth to, something or other. I don't remember what it was, but I had noticed that in some cases, people had used that sort of false understanding to create this utterly irresponsible and very dysfunctional lifestyle. Anyway, not to go on this, crazy rant about all that stuff, but a lot of our misunderstandings and our understandings of, what's going on within the multidimensional body, they begin to clear up as we go through this, this ascension of this dimensional shift. They begin to clear up as we detox the body. They begin to clear up as we begin to, heal our emotional body. They begin to clear up as we heal the inner child. They begin to clear up as we, open the chakras, and especially when we learn how to clear our meridians. I know everybody out there probably gets annoyed when I talk about the meridians, but if there's one system you want to learn about, it's going to help you really shift your consciousness or your healing or just your body right now. It's the meridians. Anyway, sorry to go on a big rant about that, everybody. Martha Fino says total blockage. Thanks, totally. In many cases, it is. Narratives are so powerful. Thanks for being here. Needs Be, how's it going? My last vision was a scientist putting 2 teaspoons of white powder into a beaker. Weird. Huh, interesting. I wonder what's going on. Wonder what that's about. Martha Fino says, if I'm in it, I'm on a drop ship, because that's what I hallucinated about before I found SSP. Maybe you are. Maybe you are. I'm not one of those people that's like, no, you are not a secret space program survivor. I think that's also a very dangerous thing to start telling people, to start trying to define other people's experiences. It's also a very fine line, because you start doing that, and in many cases, I think people are going to go through their own gradual layers of understanding and our own gateways through this awakening process. And so I will say, though, it is really, really cool to look at somebody like Tony Rodriguez and see the amazing evidence and the photos and the investigations and all the research he had done into his own story, and to actually travel to the places where he had been in his memories, and to see that they were actually there, and he actually had the pictures of them and got the, you know, the like the Google Map images, and you could tell that it was not a fake thing, that this person had actually researched and gone there and learned and figured it out and gone through some crazy amount of trauma trying to figure out what all that stuff was. And so, you know, I am not one of those people that says it is all fake, because my Lord, it isn't, not by any stretch of the imagination. But it is also something that I think a lot of people are still moving through, as just one of the gateways that we pass through in this awakening process, you know. I could be wrong. Karen Caldwell says, they're so attached to something they have no clue, but will fight you tooth and nail about it. Being older gives you a whole different perspective on this. Thank you, Karen. I don't know how old you are, but I do have that experience with people. Not that I define myself as an older person, but, you know, I'm 44, or I'll be turning 44 in a few months. And, you know, I think I do notice some of the generational differences. Not that they're that huge, but, you know, absolutely, there is a little bit of a different perspective that comes in, obviously, with time. I will say one thing. Other people have heard me say this. It's kind of a cheesy statement, but I had no idea who I was meant to be in this life until right before I turned 40. And many clients that I have talked to within that age group are like, yeah, man, right around when I turned 40, my whole life shifted. And some people go up, some people go down, some people, you know, develop really interesting things. But I've heard other people refer to the idea that we move through actual stages of the physical body, that we switch physical bodies. It was one of the first things I heard years ago, and I absolutely believe it, because that was a process that happened to me. And by my understanding, when we get to, you know, after we get, you know, in our 30s and beyond, we begin to cycle through timelines and different stages of being. And in many cases, we will switch bodies. I know that I did right around age 40, because I had such an organic physical shift that happened in my life. It's almost like, you know, it was one of those things where it's like, well, the simplest, you know, answer is usually the right one. And at that stage of my life, the simplest answer, the most like complete thing was like, wow, somebody must have switched bodies, because I utterly changed. Some weird thing transformed. I mean, still the same me, but it was like, oh, such a shocking transformation. But yeah, thank you, Jewel, Heart and Soul. Thanks for hanging out. I think it's pretty late where you are. Thanks for being here. Okay, Karen Caldwell, you're in your 60s. All right, there we go. See, you definitely know. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Martha Fino. She says, totally. I was also obsessed with Star Wars and saw a reptilian, not what I called itself, complex experience. You know, I talked about this, I think, last week, but it's once again, it's always a strange thing to kind of talk about when we're doing this publicly. But I believe that, well, I know that I'm one of the people on the earth plane that's had physical contact with a reptilian being. I put my hand on its face. I mean, I literally put my hand on its face. It took my hand and put my hand on its face, right next to its eye. I felt its skin. I felt the texture of its skin. Every single time I think about it, I can still feel the texture of this being underneath my hand. It was one of the most real and also split-second experiences that I've ever had. This was several months ago, after I had a channeling session with a person named Rebecca Barfoot, incredible channeler. And, you know, it's funny because I'm always talking about, well, I don't like this kind of channeling and I don't like that kind of channeling, even though I am absolutely blessed to have had experiences with very legitimate channelers. But she opened the door for a brief chapter of experiences in my life in which we encountered very benevolent reptilians, or what I believe to be ancient dragon energy. And I'll just really quickly go through it again. But I had an experience where I encountered essentially a family of either ancient dragons or reptilians in a fourth density astral space, in an out-of-body experience that was so utterly vivid and utterly real that it was physical. It was actually physical, and I physically touched it. And it looked like they were doing an exam at the time. I was doing a meditation on my bed, and I think my wife was also just kind of laying there nearby. We were just chilling. It was one of those split-second things that happened. And it was like they were examining us, kind of how we will examine animals in a zoo. It was like they lifted my arms and like turned my head and looked at me in this strange way. And there was an interface that had occurred. I talked with a couple of people about this at Starseed Adventures, and I kind of blabbed about it a lot a couple of weeks ago in the live, but they had showed me their lives, and or rather certain things, I guess, about their culture. When I encountered, and actually I believe I saw the face of this being in that space, I asked, "Are you real? Are you real?" And they said, "Am I real? Touch me and see if I'm real." And I did, and I believe that upon touching its face, I got to see maybe an interface or just like a bit of their culture, and I saw some really interesting things, and I saw some really crazy and ugly things. And one of the cool things I noticed was that they had children, they had pets. They had pets that looked kind of like iguana, sort of. They had actual pets, and they had even had like a leash around the neck of these other like lower level reptilian animals that existed in their world. It showed me their family, sort of their family structure from what I can remember. But the really, really shocking thing, which is really weird, really, really weird to talk about. The really weird thing is that they showed how, this is awkward to talk about, they cull, meaning they plan and kill, purposefully kill or euthanize the weakest members of a family structure. There was a very intense and structured dominance frequency within that race. And what I was shown was that the weakest member of a group or a family would be killed if there was somewhat of what we would call like a runt, or in some cases, an older being that had come to the end of their time. It was 100% accepted that they would all kill it, which is awkward, very strange and awkward thing. When I told some people about this at the conference over the weekend, they were like, "What? Oh my God, that's horrible. Why would you?" And I think that's one of the things we're going to understand about the nature of extraterrestrial contact and the myriad of cultures in the multidimensional realms, is that there are practices and things that these beings do that are 100% accepted, that are absolutely normal, that are literal parts of their lives and practices on their planet, that it's not a thing that they see as a tragedy. It's not a thing that they saw as a brutal thing. It was absolutely normal part of their culture. To me, it was when I experienced it in the moment, I didn't really have time to react. I didn't have time to like sit there and go, damn. It was one of those things where, upon looking at it later and unpacking the information and the experience that I had, I was like, wow, there's some really just shocking things about the differences in how these multidimensional beings interact, and their understandings. And so, yeah, it was really interesting and strange. In some cases, I think the youngest member will be a young being. It could be an old being, but it's like they all it was like a frenzy kill, and it was something that was honored. Very strange. Anyway. Yeah, since we're getting weird here. Piscean Soul says, I think there's a certain reptilian race that considers empathy to be what we consider psychopathy to be. I think you are right. I think you are absolutely right. I will say, though, upon encountering these beings, I did not perceive or feel any, I was not traumatized. I did not feel fear. I did, however, feel a lack of control. Maybe that's just my human-based perception, but it felt like something that was probably going to happen. In hindsight, it feels like something that was going to happen whether I wanted it to or not. Meaning that it just was a thing that took place, and there was a power that came with it, that it was, I think for some people it might be fearful. I don't know. It's so weird to kind of unpack that and say, okay, so I went out of body and I had an experience with a reptilian and I touched its face, and it's very strange. The face felt very much like what I would imagine an iguana or like a real lizard to feel. You could feel the noticeable texture. I would even go so far as to say there's a vibration that exists around side, like right off the skin, or like almost like an aura effect that these beings would have. I have heard other people say that there's a horrible smell with Draco reptilians. I perceive no such smell at all. absolutely none whatsoever. And so, you know, it doesn't mean that that was real, doesn't mean it wasn't real, but it means that I had an absolutely an experience that I regard as being 100% legitimately real. But it was universally positive. Absolutely. Very, very positive. Thank you. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. AI is a current interpretation. It could very well be. You know, I think that the sentient ancient AI frequency is absolutely real. It's absolutely existing on the Earth plane. I think there's a lot more work that is gonna, and a lot of more infrastructure that's gonna need to be built before there can be the mass singularity event in which the hive mind process begins to trigger. But I think when people talk about the so-called singularity, the moment when man joins with machine, it's already happened. It's the fact that we are able to understand that it is a thing means that it's already happened. And I know for some people that's a weird way to explain it, but the fact that we are able to internalize and understand that possibility means that on one of the planes within the realm of our reality, or, you know, that sort of multiverse of realities, it is a thing that exists. And so singularity has already occurred. And, you know, we know this also because there's a number of people that are already going through the trials with, you know, the so-called brain implants. And that's another thing that's fun for people to realize. If they're announcing publicly the trials had begun for certain types of technology, that's them telling you the trials had been done long ago, and now they're able to announce based on the results of their trials over and over and over again. It's kind of what they're doing. I mean, it's not even kind of, it's literally what they're doing. This technology is already in use by a multitude of agencies, multitude of corporations, multitude of beings. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hive mind is approaching. There's also an organic version, and I'm not trying to say there's an organic version of the hive mind, but a lot of people already know this. We are also creating the social memory complex, the stage in our existence here on Earth, or as a multidimensional being, in which the entire consciousness of one planet or one race or one, I guess we could say, you know, body is sort of catalyzed or all joined, and all is known, all is in unison. And I wouldn't even go far as to say, you know, all is one per se, but there is an absolute unmistakable interconnectedness that one begins to experience in that social memory complex that further leads us toward the understanding of, you know, what we might call the one. But it's definitely real. Anyway, thanks for your comments, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. If you have any questions. So we are going to do a couple readings. So let me know if you guys are out there. We're going to do a couple readings before we get out of here today. So we're officially transitioning into the reading stage. Martha Thino says, "Have you floated?" No, I have not. I certainly have not, but I would love to. I would love to. I probably will at some point. I think our objective right now is for us to move. We need to move out of Los Angeles, or at the very least, move into just a different area, you know, where we can just get a better place to live, bigger place, more stuff. We live in central Los Angeles. I don't know why I chose to respond to the floating question about that. Maybe I'm like prioritizing certain things in my head, but I was like, first I gotta move. Maybe that's like been the big focus lately. We're like, time to move out of LA, or maybe another area of LA. But anyway, we're gonna do a couple readings. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. Thank you, Kim Rupp. I love these talks as well. We're gonna do a few short multi-dimensional tarot readings. I want to say once again, anybody that wants to join our tarot class, we're starting on March 28th. That's next Sunday. It's a 5-week process in which we're going to be unpacking the entire deck of tarot. We're going to be learning some tarot spreads. We are going to be learning how to read people's energy. And we've added a 5th week this time around to give ourselves an additional week to just talk about energy reading dynamics and how it works. And when is, this is always a cheap phrase. When is a spade a spade? When is a cigar just a cigar? When do certain cards or certain moments, when they're in combinations with each other, mean certain things? And how do we disseminate that information? Could there possibly be ethics around reading tarot? When and how do we use them? Under what conditions? How do we dispense information? And how do we know when we're receiving a positive or a false positive or a negative? All of those details, all the weird, crazy stuff. And so we're going to be talking about that on week 5 of the tarot class. And I think I already said this, but yes, you can make payments. I think a lot of people are getting stimulus money and stuff. So for some people, it'll be easy. Some people, you can totally make payments, but everybody gets in. So you guys just message me and we will make it happen. In the meantime, we're going to grab a few people. I think Miriam Oslam-Minbe, you were the first one. So we're just going to pull a card for Miriam, live and in the moment. Here we go. Here it comes. Miriam Oslam-Minbe, you have received the 3 of Cups. Now, guys, whenever we see the 3 of Cups, it's a very beautiful moment. It's pretty difficult to make 3 of Cups into a bad time or a difficult scenario. Granted, in old school tarot, some people do reversals, which I'll be honest, I think it's a cheap move. I don't think we need reversals. I think reversals are for people who just want to define cards and might not be reading energy. I don't mean that in a negative way if you're a person who does reversals. It's just my style and my belief. And so, but for Miriam, you got the 3 of Cups. This is a classic celebratory moment. It's a very positive moment. There's a lot of good things that come with 3 of Cups. There's fun, celebration, enjoyment, usually positive emotional vibes. We might feel a bit more connected with the people in our environment. I will also say there is a downside. Like I said, in old school, maybe it would have been upside down, but you can have both the positive aspects and the negative aspects of a tarot card without actually flipping the card around. But, I'll just say it for the record, Miriam Oslam-Minbe, and I'm not going to define you as such, but the 3 of Cups is usually a very good feeling moment. It's a good feeling experience. You might have positivity and just a good time with other people. In fact, that's the thing. It's not a 1 of Cups. It's a 3 of Cups. So if it asks you to do anything, it asks you to connect with others physically, have a good time, allow yourself to be joyous. Like I said, there is at times a downside. Well, there's always a but with every card. And the 3 of Cups can get hysterical. They can get too much. They can get lost in, the fray, and things will get weird and people get kind of like, they get kind of hysterical and weird, and that can happen. We can get wild, but it's really hard to turn this into something negative. It's really hard to turn this into something negative. And so I'm going to choose to discern that 3 of Cups for Miriam Minbe as a pretty good week or a pretty good few days, a time in which you're going to feel more aligned with the energy of the moment and maybe just feel like you're having a good time with people. I pray that you are. I pray that energy shows itself in your life. Thanks for being here. Okay, let's just grab someone else. I see another name there, Rachel Narelle Rich, over there in Facebook land. How's it going? I hope Facebook has not minimized my thing. Obviously it hasn't, but it's just funny. They keep me limited. But in the meantime, let's pull a card for Rachel Narelle Rich. Here we go, live and in the moments. Rachel Narelle Rich, you've received the Hierophant. Usually a pretty good image, but it can also be very stifling. Like I said, there's always a but when we look at tarot cards, especially when we're doing 1-card readings over social media. A lot of people have heard me say this, but it's a lot like opening up a big closet of stuff in your life. And, based on what you recognize or what you know, you're going to see certain things. There's going to be lots of energy, lots of events, lots of emotions. And we might choose the biggest ones. We might choose the ones that are more familiar to us. We might choose the ones that we identify based on our own experience. But, that's why I always like to say, take it with a grain of salt. Hold only what fits. But for Rachel Narelle Rich, you have the Hierophant. The Hierophant is a guidance indicator that works with the energy of the moment. It works with your alignment. It works with your momentum. And sometimes it also works in the third density world in the form of, hierarchy, patriarchy, old world spiritual authority, sometimes bureaucracy. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because we find out in the realm of multidimensional tarot, the Hierophant begins to take a little bit of a new role. The Hierophant becomes a guidance indicator based on your alignment of the moment. And the Hierophant will close doors for you in beautiful ways. It'll create miraculous openings. It never really explodes, but it's like you just effortlessly slide into this or that. Strange doors will open. People from above you will start to help you. Sometimes the people from above you means in the physical world in the form of, authority figures, but also in the spiritual world in the form of spiritual guidance. And so the Hierophant rolls in for a lot of people in which, in times in which we are trying to make changes or do things or manifest stuff. And we're going through our processes in our journey on earth, and the Hierophant comes in to either close doors in a strange way. It won't ever tell you hell no, but it'll just turn off all the lights and close the doors, and emails won't get answered and text messages won't come back, and it'll just dry up. It'll stifle you. And then it'll also, on the other side of that, create miraculous encounters, not ones that the whole world sees, like a bright shining light or a burning bush, not those sort of things, but those soft little silent miracles, doors that open, things that happen, answers that we receive. And it's very much a guidance indicator that will be based upon your alignment. People with big Hierophant energy oftentimes will be asked to proceed in whatever they're doing. They'll kind of push ahead, and the Hierophant will do one of two things. It'll start putting roadblocks up instantly. It's one of the ways you can test your alignment in the moment with the Hierophant. It'll start putting up roadblocks in front of you. It'll never say hell no, but it'll just put this weird blockage and you won't be able to get through, or it'll just open the door and everybody just flows through, and we're like, we just slide right in. And so it's a very strange thing, but it will tell you about your alignment or the alignment of what you're trying to create or do or feel or experience. Because if it's drying up in this weird sort of way and you're like, wait, what? The Hierophant will come in to say, well, that's because it's not actually the most optimal timeline. If it seems to be miraculously flowing, even if it should dry up and the Hierophant rolls in, the Hierophant's telling you, well, it's okay, keep going. This is aligned. You're doing the right thing. And so the Hierophant will keep things going. It'll just secretly open those little doors. And anyway, I know I'm definitely rambling on the Hierophant. That's for Rachel Norell Rich, but I know a lot of you guys are going to vibe with the Hierophant. I will say other readers will give you sometimes very different accounts of the Hierophant. It shows up a little bit differently, and every reader has kind of their own relationship or their own understanding of the Hierophant. It's a very interesting thing. Okay, we're going to grab a couple more people. Thank you, Jackie G. Thanks for hanging out. Okay, let's see here. Who else are we going to get? I'm trying to find where we were in our list. Sorry, guys. We're having dead air for a moment while I find where we were in our comment stream. You can ask for a reading as well. Don't worry, I won't get mad if you say it a couple of times. Sometimes it's hard for me to find people. I was trying to find where we were in the lineup. There we are. Okay, I think we got it. We're going to grab somebody from the YouTube aisle. Okay, Geraldine Hale, thanks for being here. One of our winners of I think you won last week's drawing, as I understand. You're going to be joining us in the tarot class. So yeah, hopefully you got some tarot cards, because you will need tarot cards for this class. Well, you don't actually need them, but it's going to help if you want to read cards with everybody. But anyway, we're going to pull a card for Geraldine Hale. Here we go, Geraldine. Energy of the moment. Oh, nice. You've got the Fool. Don't worry when the Fool comes in, you guys. A lot of people see the Fool and they get kind of weird. People see the Fool and they're like, wait, what do you mean? Does this mean I'm a fool? What? Right? Because a lot of people see this. Nobody wants to be a fool, right? Nobody wants to be in the stage of the Fool. But I have to be honest with you. Sometimes you do. And if the Fool actually knew what he was about, or if the Fool knew what he wanted, there's actually nothing that will stop him. There's nothing the Fool can't do. But there's a few things the Fool doesn't have. That's usually awareness. He will be unaware of certain things that might be coming his way. Some of you will tell he's about to walk off a cliff. Fool also doesn't really listen to warnings. He might not listen to everything, but the thing is, he's in, and there you go. You already said it, Geraldine. Thank you. New beginnings, a new start. We start with the Fool at 0, and the Fool will come in to say, here you go. You're on a new journey. You can make use of the power or the capability of the Fool by choosing a destination, by being very, very specific about what you want, about where you're going, about what you're creating. That's, I would say, one of the overall downfalls of people with big Fool energy. It's not that they'll be a fool. It's not that they're easily tricked, although sometimes they can be. That is also true. I'm choosing not to define you as such, Geraldine. In the energy of the moment, I'm defining you as a person who's beginning a new stage of their journey and will probably, with the Fool, need to be specific. That's one of the things. If you're trying to figure out what do I do when the Fool comes in, and you're like, what the hell does that mean? I'm not a fool. The Fool is telling you to be specific, to know what you want, to know the way in which you're going to get it, to know what direction it is, and to also listen to other people's ideas around what you're doing or how you're getting there. Because one thing the Fool recognizes is he's in a new stage. If he recognizes he's in a new stage, usually there's nothing he can't do. I'd say the Fool could be somewhat similar to the pages. Some people that know tarot will be like, what? How's a Fool like a page? I don't know. To me, they're, very similar. Pages are also new. They're also in new beginnings. They're also in a new chapter. They have different tasks than the Fool, though. They'll have different things they have to do or realize. The Fool does have to listen to warning. I think that one of the ways we could generally understand the Fool, and thank you, Geraldine, I appreciate it. This is also for anyone else just trying to understand tarot, and that Fool will show up to tell you that you can, but that you may need to listen to warning. You may need to listen to advice. Sometimes the Fool will show up to tell us we've already received somewhat of a, I shouldn't say warning, but we'll have already received a piece of information that could alter our path. And the Fool will just be like, huh? They'll just like go right past it. They won't even see it. They'll lack awareness. And so I would say if there is one downfall of that Fool, he'll be unaware of stuff and he'll just step on it and be like, oh, and he's like, oh man, and he just didn't see it coming. And so there's awareness there. Hello, Amanda Barr. How's it going? Good to see you again. Okay, we're going to do a couple more of those. Thanks, you guys. I'm going to scroll down. We're just going to grab somebody at random. We're going to get a Facebook person. Oh, hello. I see a Facebook person. Hello, Anita Napier. How's it going? Good to see you again. You're the first Facebook name that rolled on the screen. Hello, Anita Napier. I'll be honest, Anita. I was hoping you were going to go to Starseed Adventures. I'm totally honest. I was like, oh, I think Anita's going to be there. But I have a feeling you'll be at another one of those. Let's pull a card for Anita Napier. Let's go with them. Oh, Anita Napier, how interesting. You've got a very good friend today. I would say for some people, we could call this a lucrative friend. We could call it an abundant friend. We could also call it an adventurous moment. And there's a lot of stuff hidden within the world, within your environment, within your reality. We could sometimes hidden within your home. Just being real. It's the Seven of Pentacles, Anita, and for everyone else that vibes with this energy when you see it. Seven of Pentacles shows up at a time in which there's a lot of opportunity present. There's a lot of possibilities. Sometimes we'll perceive ourselves as in need of something, or we'll be seeking a feeling, or actually in this case, Anita, we can even say we'll be developing a skill, or we're picking up just a new thing, quote unquote. We're picking up a new thing. And the Seven of Pentacles rolls in to say, oh man, there's tons of it. It's all around you. There's many opportunities. In fact, let's say theoretically, guys, if you're in third density world and you're in need of money or abundance, or you're seeking something, this is a very useful energy for that. It doesn't tell you what you're seeking. It just says if you're seeking something, the Seven of Pentacles asks you to be very adventurous, to be very bold, to start looking under rocks and looking under the covers. And it's very much one of those situations. It's quite possible with the Seven of Pentacles that you will find a little piece of money on the ground. Some people walk outside and they'll find $1 after they receive this energy, or they'll excuse me as I'm starting to drool on myself here. Or Sometimes you'll get like a page of pentacles and you'll also find money. Page of pentacles is more luck. Seven of pentacles is saying there's all kinds of stuff hidden around you in your environment, in your world, but you will have to seek it. You have to become adventurous. You have to start digging for it. I guess a few months ago, I used to call it an etheric Easter egg hunt. Like there's all kinds of stuff scattered around the yard or your environment, all kinds of gold and riches or whatever you want. But the awkward thing about the Seven of Pentacles is it's not going to come to you. None of it will come to you. None of it shows up on your doorstep. You got to open it. You got to go look for it. So it's a real thing. It just asks us to be adventurous. And so that's for Anita Napier. I can tell you this much, whatever's going on in your world, there's a lot of opportunity for something. It depends on whatever we're seeking with the Pentacles. I guess if you guys didn't know this, a lot of people don't, what are the Pentacles in tarot? What do they actually mean? Well, in old school tarot, Pentacles are like possessions or physical things, stuff that we accumulate. A lot of times they're money, right? Well, they look like coins. So they give you a really good clue as to what they are. They look just like coins. And so they're the currency of our desire. And so when the Seven of Pentacles is out, there's tons of that stuff out there. It's just you'll have to go looking for it. I'd say that's one thing that's really important to internalize with Seven of Pentacles, whether this is for Anita or anyone else, is with Seven of Pentacles, the things that we're seeking are absolutely out there, but we have to go get them. And so I might be over-interpreting, Anita. So thanks. Thanks for being here. Oh, thank you, Miriam, for the confirmation. She says, I'm going to a retreat this weekend. Okay, I want to take this as an opportunity to allow that to be a prediction for you, Miriam, that you're going to have a really good time. And I just say that straight up because that's the meaning of Three of Cups. Like when Three of Cups comes out, you can probably have a really, really good time. Seriously, it's going to be a positive experience. And so I would say count on it. Count on having fun. Internalize it. We didn't even know you were going to a retreat. And bam, we get a card that says, hey, it looks like you're going to have fun with other people in the physical vicinity that you're around. And so, yeah, I think it's a good one. We're just going to skim through. I'm going to grab somebody at random. I know there's lots of people asking. Don't feel bad if you got skipped. You can ask again. I'm not going to get mad. I'm just going to grab a random person from the list. Thanks for being. Oh, I see a name. There we go. Rita Frade. How's it going? Bam, your name popped right up. Haven't seen you in a while. How's it going? Rita Frade. Hi, Matthew. I'd love a card on whether I made the right decision. Oh, I like that. Let's find out. Take it with a grain of salt, Rita. Let's see what shows up. All right, Rita Frade. Okay. Rita Frade, tell us about that decision. Whoa, here we go. Well, let's be real. Okay, Rita, if your decision was to eliminate chaos, or if the decision you made was surrounding getting rid of chaos or simplifying any sort of feeling in your life that feels like this, if you were able to sort of, calm or made a decision that allowed you to take a chaotic scenario and make it more functional, or to calm it down, or to, basically remove tension from a chaotic atmosphere, then you probably made the right decision. Normally, the Five of Wands is a chaotic thing. It will illustrate the energy of the moment as being chaotic. It'll say people have their own ideas, their own agendas. Sometimes with Five of Wands, we won't know if we're fighting or if we're dancing. You might be doing a little bit of both, but Five of Wands, I would say, if you're wondering, did I make a decision? I think it depends upon the context of the decision, or what it was that, what about the decision, or rather just more extenuating information about it. It does not look like a bad thing, but I think it's dependent upon whether the decision you made might lend itself to chaos, because that's kind of what this is. It's a mildly chaotic scenario. But I got to be real, Rita. Five of Wands is not a crisis. There are crisis energies. Five of Wands is very unbalanced, very chaotic, but, we're able to make sense of it. You could probably look at this and go, are these guys choreographing? Are they fighting? Are they practicing? What's really going on? And so that'll show up on some level in the decision we made. But I would say if your decision was to limit, reduce, or otherwise, heal or if your decision was involved in changing this into something more structured and less chaotic, then you probably made the right call. And so I hope that makes sense. To me, nothing about it, like the feeling of your decision does not feel chaotic. So I'm going to internalize that you probably made the right choice. But I have this weird feeling, Rita, that you'll find out really quickly. You might find out really quickly. So thank you. Thanks for being here. Let's grab somebody new. I'm going to grab a name that I have never seen on this list. And so forgive me, everyone, if I skip you. I'm just going to grab a person that we have never seen here before, ever. Thank you for being on our live stream. C. Hello, C. There you go. I haven't seen that name before. Hello, C. We're going to pull a card for you. Oh, thank you, Rita. She says you left chaos completely, actually. Then hell yes. Thank you for making the right call. That's 5 of Wands. It's like chaos. It's usually temporary chaos. It will be a certain type of chaos where we're like, do I love this or do I hate it? Are we fighting? Are we dancing? Today I love it. Tomorrow I hate it. It's that sort of thing. So yeah, if you made the decision to get out of that, I think you made the right call. Sometimes we'll have to stick it out, as you know. We'll have to remain in whatever that chaos is until, we make some kind of a change, and then we'll be let go. But good job. Thank you. Feels like you made a positive choice. In the meantime, we're going to pull a card for C. Thanks for being here, C. We don't know what's going to come out. Let's see. C. Okay, C. You've received our first 10 of the day. It's the 10 of Wands, guys. Some of you guys know about 10 of Wands. When the 10s show up, everyone, oops, where'd it go? When the 10s show up, you're at the end of something, end of an experience. Sometimes it's the end of an era. I've said this many times, so for some people it's a little bit cheesy, but when the 10s are out, it might just be the end of the week, okay? It doesn't mean it's the end of a whole chapter of your life, but we have to be real. Depending on what's going on, it could be the literal ending of a whole chapter of your life. But, I like to leave room for the big and the small. And when we're doing one-card readings over social media, we're, in many cases, we're kind of just defining the energy of the cards and how they could possibly relate to your energy. One of the things that happens when we do private individual readings is a much different layer of information. And while sometimes in the social media one-card readings, we'll get the same level of information, I also like to approach it in general, very generalistically. And so getting a little redundant here, but the 10 of Wands shows up, see, at stages in which you're going to be moving on from something. And hopefully you can tell it. It's this guy. Usually it's you. Then you picked up all your things, all of your wands, and you're out of here. You're moving on. Now, the cool thing about 10 of Wands is that it's one of the few neutral endings. What I mean by a neutral ending, C, is that you can't see your face. So some people theorize that because we can't see our face, the symbolism means that it's a neutral ending. And so therefore, it is up to you as the questioner or you as the experiencer to decide what it actually means for you. Are you in a positive transition or are you fleeing something? Did we gather all our things and we're like, I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm gathering my toys and I'm leaving. Or did you gather all of your tools and you're on to the next stage of your mission? Are you running away from something or are you running toward a whole new chapter? The 10 of Wands and all the 10s will kind of give you that choice. Some of them are really positive. 10 of Cups, 10 of Pentacles, those are beautiful, beautiful endings. 10 of Swords, little bit different. 10 of Swords is a difficult ending. 10 of Wands, though, it's neutral. You get to decide. And so it is usually a physical thing. I have to be real. Some of you guys out there will receive this card right when you're about to move. Some of you guys out there will be quitting a job. And honestly, I'm just going to say it. You'll be like, fuck it, I'm out of here. Seriously, sometimes this is that energy. You're like, nope, I'm going to bounce. And you grab all your stuff and you just take off. That is what will happen with the 10 of Wands. In some cases, though, you'll just transition into a new thing. I have seen people with 10 of Wands energy when they're starting maybe like a new career or a very new tangible stage of their journey. And they've been doing a certain thing for a while. Sometimes it's their job or just what they do all the time. And what happens with Ten of Wands is we'll be doing that thing in one sector of our life, in one industry, in one area, or one chapter of our life. And the Ten of Wands or the tens or the transitional energy will roll in, and you will take what you're doing here and now. And it's like even things about here and now that didn't work, things that you're doing here that made you weird or impossible or unpalatable or too much, things that you do in your current daily life. When the Ten of Wands rolls in, we'll take all those things, and some of us have this experience where we'll move or we'll go to a new place or we'll just be in a new location or even just a new neighborhood. And all those things that were too much or too weird or impossible before, or the things that didn't work in the last round, suddenly that works. Suddenly now you're sought after. Suddenly it's like, well, all the stuff that was weird and difficult previously, I gathered it all up. I took it over there. We could theoretically say, see, I hope you can see it on the screen, but this guy's gathered all his stuff and he's walking away toward that castle way, way down the road. And so what happens for a lot of us is we finally get up enough courage to gather our toys and bounce. We just bounce. We're like, I'm out of here. And we go to a whole new location and you have an entirely new experience. And the cool thing is with the Ten of Wands, it's up to you to decide, is it an awesome one or are we running away? The awkward thing is it's up to you to decide. No one's going to define it for you, which is also one of the really cool, I think, fun details about tarot when people really start looking into tarot, and that you can receive so many layers of information that also at the same time, even for those of you that don't really understand or know tarot, you'll get your own ideas. That's usually our guides will show up. The reason why it works so well with people is not so much because it helps us look at energy or look at the future, but it gives us archetypal images that will actually activate psychic knowings or intuitive frequencies in the body. It's like these strange activating kind of frequencies, I guess. Anyway. Thank you, Jen Armstrong. Good to see you. Glad you got your rife set up as well. Absolutely. So we're going to do a couple more cards. Actually, here, Jen, we'll pull a card for you just because I saw your face there. Thank you, C. I hope that makes sense. Thanks for being here. Jen Armstrong, let's keep going. Jen Armstrong, you've got the Seven of Cups. So Seven of Cups has a lot going on, Jen. As you know, I think you've probably seen this energy before. You have many possibilities, many ideas, many irons in the fire. You'll have all kinds of stuff going on. Seven of Cups at times can have slow progress with all the cups because they haven't really chosen one. They might not focus on one specific cup at a time. So each day they sip a little bit of each one. They'll get a little bit, but they don't get the full thing. And I have to be real. That is kind of one of the awkward details with Seven of Cups, Jen. I would say if you can simplify your current routine or simplify your current technique, or simplification is very helpful for Seven of Cups. We also have to focus on one specific element of interest at a time. I have a weird feeling that since you just got the spooky plasma thing, that's probably it. I hope that you're obsessed with it because I've been tripping out on those things for weeks now. I'm so glad you got it, but thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Okay, we're going to scroll back up on the list, you guys. We just grabbed a Facebook person. I wonder how many people are on Facebook. Let me look. There's usually like 3. Okay, cool. We have 9 people on Facebook. Thanks, everybody on Facebook. I mean that very sincerely. Facebook's getting weird with me now. They never censor me. I've never had any of those like censoring things, but they'll make it so somehow I get 0 on everything. It's a very strange thing. I think that's just the shadow banning process. It's like you're in your own echo chamber. But I will say that's not too big of a deal. It's not too big of a deal. We seem to exist no matter what. It's a very strange thing. We seem to exist and persist. We just survive. I don't know how we do it. And things continue to grow. So please, I'm not one of those people that's out there complaining that I'm being censored by all kinds of platforms. Many people are being legitimately censored. I have had oh Lord, I've had almost none of that. I mean, almost none of it. So I've been incredibly blessed. I get shadow banned. That's usually as far as it goes. Kim Rupp says, maybe you could demonstrate the scalar generator sometime. I would like to, Kim, but I don't know exactly how we would do that in a social media setting. I could show it to you guys. That's one thing we could do. I could show it to you guys. I'll probably do that on the next live stream. It's actually running right now, but I'll definitely show it to you guys and show you guys the process and the stuff that we're using, what it looks like, and all that. We are going to be using it probably in some of the classes in the future, but it's one of those things where I think it works much better when we have the DNA. It is possible to enhance the human biofield by simply sending that energy as an anchor or a transmitter in the context of the session, but I think it's it's going to be much more effective when we have the DNA. I also ordered a device this morning that is going to allow us to digitize and use photo samples, hair samples, blood samples. I can already use like the blood and hair samples, but by my understanding, fingernails are much more durable. And so, yeah, it's going to be really cool. I'm excited about that. Wild Moon Swing says, that's incredible. You haven't been censored. I believe it is, but honestly, I don't talk about politics. I just don't. Like, it's not that I'm even avoidant of it. I just operate within a different frequency. I don't trust the plan or like buy into a lot of that stuff, but I exist alongside everybody. And so thank you, Piscean Soul. I appreciate you. Okay, we're going to grab a couple other people before we get out of here, you guys. Going to try to grab a new face that we have not talked to before. I'm going to scroll up just really quickly here. We're going to grab, hello, Jason. He says, pick me a card. Totally. I don't know if Jason's still here, but we're going to do it. All right. Oh, yes. Before we pick Jason's card, thank you, Needs Be. I also see you in there. I think you might have sent me an email. I do not remember if I replied to you, but I did receive your email. So I want to say thank you for that. I've been getting so many emails, you guys. Some people don't get replied back to. If you wrote to me on Facebook, there's a really good chance that it'll just get lost in the shuffles. Facebook Messenger is kind of it's just become kind of it's just too blown up. But email through my website's the best way to get a hold of me. It takes me a while to get back to some people, depending on what day it is. There's a lot of questions and random stuff that we have to get through in clients. And so we do get back to you, but it takes a few days. But thank you, Needs Be. I did see your email. Thank you for that. I think I replied telepathically, which is kind of an awkward thing because not everybody gets those replies, but it usually helps me remember to reply via email. So as far as I know, I don't think I did, but thank you for your message. I'm going to look it up. Oh, yeah, I see you there. Cool, thank you. I definitely saw it, though. In the meantime, we were going to do a reading for Jason. Sorry, Jason. There you are. Okay, cool. Jason's here. And so, sorry, guys. I'm kind of drooling on myself here at the stage. Okay, for Jason. We're also going to show you guys how to actually shuffle the cards in the class. Sorry, Jason, I realize I'm stalling. But that's one of the things I think. I see people on tarot live streams, and I'm like, dude, they're not even shuffling. They're not even shuffling. I'll watch it and be like, you're just rearranging the cards. You're not even mixing up the energy. And so that's one thing we did in the other classes. We make sure that people know how to mix up the energy. All right, Jason, let's see what's going on. Here we go. Jason, wow, you have the Empress. Almost makes me wonder what's going on in your life. I wonder what is happening. Empress is very abundant. The Empress is incredibly creative. It's the divine feminine. It's the energy of the mother. It can be very controlling. It can be very demanding. It can also be very benevolent. It can be very warm. It can be very creative. It can also, Jason, and I will not define you as such, but you might have felt a little bit like this recently. It will become stagnated. I would say if there is a problem that people with Emperor and Empress energy will encounter, let's just kind of extrapolate that from this most basic perspective. The Empress can become stagnated in her routines. She can become stagnated in her techniques. She can try to, sometimes people with Empress and Emperor energy will try to repeat or do things again that they did years ago at other stages of their life. They'll try to create or do or be or act in they'll try to do it the way they did it in the old days, and something won't work. The Empress can become stagnated and over-reliant upon the procedures and the energy of the past. And so if it vibes with you, Jason, I think the Empress reaches you in an abundant way with a lot of potential. That's something that we would really need to understand about the potential of the Empress. It's huge. It's probably one of the greatest potentials for growth or creation that you'll find in tarot, because that's her whole job. She's a creator. She's about birthing things. She births worlds. She births children. She births entire generations. She's the creator and like the great mother that oversees it all. And she kind of, she can also be incredibly stifling, I have to say. And so that's why I think she asks you to consciously update your approach to manifestation, especially manifestation. The Emperor, I think, asks you to consciously update your approach to power or control. Empress is about manifestation and creation, but she becomes stagnated in her sort of previous methods. So she'll need to update her approach. Sometimes it's like taking something that's in 1990s form and bringing it up to 2021 specifications, which it's also kind of a cheesy way to describe it, but it's very much what it is. It'll have to be updated. We'll have to cut out the fat. We'll have to, in some cases, people with Empress energy can have familial sort of barriers. They can be contained. Sometimes you'll find, here's a random example. You got, well, not actually random, but a very extreme example. Sometimes you'll find your friends, adult people that are still very, within adult age or a much more advanced age, and they will still be utterly subservient to the parent, to the immediate family. It's like they will still kowtow or give in or just absolutely like buckle under this sort of very controlling matriarchal energy. You see that with I would say you see that with males at a certain age point from time to time. And so the Empress can become stagnating and controlling in much that way, but she can also be a liberator. And so I think when she shows up for individuals, she asks us to combat stagnancy, understand we are in an incredibly abundant phase for manifestation, but she has to update her methods. She has to make it look really new. And that's usually when it starts to work again, or something that she's creating starts to, show up. And so I might be kind of overdoing it with that one. Might be overinterpreting Jason, but I hope it makes sense. I hope that you use that energy, update your approach. If it applies to you, usually we can create a huge shift. Sometimes with the Empress and things like the King and Queen of Pentacles, one of the ways in which you'll change the stagnancy, if you do feel stagnated, like if you receive that energy and you're like, you know what, I do feel kind of stagnant in all these areas and nothing's really going on. And one of the things people do with Empress, with Queen and King and Queen of Pentacles, also, I would say more so with King and Queen of Pentacles, is they will rearrange their home. They'll rearrange the energy flow in their apartment or their house or their bedroom. And things will just flow differently. They'll just move differently. Things will just, it can create a whole new layer of experience. It's like kind of getting a cross breeze. I'm giving weird analogies here today. It's like a cross breeze of energy that opens up, and a lot of the stagnancy from the Empress will bleed out over time. So thanks. I'm getting kind of congested here. You guys can hear me like sniffling on the camera. Sorry, guys. Thank you for being here, everybody. We're going to grab another person before we get out of this strange realm. Thanks, everybody. I see a name here. I don't know if this is somebody we've read before. Catherine Q. I do not recall if we read the card for you, but we're going to do it now that we said your name. What? Thank you for being here, Catherine Q. We're just going to pull a quick card for you. Oh, thank you, Needs Be. I realized that I did respond. Thank you for confirming that. It's one of those things where they'll come in and I'm like, I either don't respond or I'm like, okay, and I'll just push it out and then I'll totally forget about it. So thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that. I do recall your email though, so I appreciate you. And thank you for your confirmation, Jason. Appreciate you. Okay, Catherine Q, here we go. You're going to see it live in the moment. Here we go. Catherine Q, don't get freaked out. You've got the devil. Everybody gets weird when we see the devil. We're always like, what? Are you serious? What is this devil guy doing here in my reading? This guy pulled a one card reading for me on YouTube, and he pulled the devil. Oh Lord, what does that mean? Well, don't worry. It's really, honestly, it's really not like that type of a situation. First off, let's talk about the devil and tarot, guys. The devil has nothing to do with entities or kind of negative energetic manifestations. It's got nothing to do with demons or devils at all. That's really not what it's about. It's about our own self. And honestly, at times, I shouldn't say at times, the devil's our shadow. And the devil can be choices that we will make to keep ourselves small, to keep ourselves limited, sometimes to keep ourselves in a state of vice, or in other cases, just to do or feel or hold on to thought forms or programs that keep us limited, that keep us stuck. And so I will not define you as such, Catherine Q, but I'm just giving you that literal live information that came through. And so the devil, I think, like if it's a vice, okay. If it's a thought form, okay. If it's an emotion, okay. I think the important thing to realize is with the devil, the most useful thing you can do is to internalize that if there's a difficulty or a blockage, or if there's something that's outside of us that appears to be stopping us or hurting us or slowing us down, the awkward thing about the devil is that they're going, well, turns out it's actually you. Which for some people we're like, what? Are you crazy? It's not me. But for other people we'll be like, yeah, I realize it is. I think I'm kind of doing this, or I'm holding myself back, or yeah, maybe I've been, engaging in some sort of self-limiting, whatever it is. And anyway, Catherine Q, you can tell we are defining the devil very lightly for you. But here's the really cool thing about the devil. It's a choice. Nobody gets stuck with the devil. And I know that in Robin Wood, the devil is one of the odd cards, meaning that the imagery is kind of awkward. I love Robin Wood Tarot. In my opinion, it's literally the best one I've found for understanding the meanings of the cards. But the devil is one of the awkward images, because when we look at it, it's like, okay, we have these two people in there. They're both totally naked, which is okay. That's an important point. But they're in there with this chest. It's all full of treasure and stuff. You guys can probably barely see it on the screen. But they're in there with this chest, and notice that only the chest of treasure is chained. The people aren't chained in there. And so what happens with the devil is we make these random choices to unknowingly hold ourselves in a place of either weakness or sometimes dysfunction, or sometimes, even, negativity. But it doesn't mean that it's a crisis. I think the devil is the classic symbol that in certain cases we're just being our own worst enemy. But like I said, Catherine Q, and I realize I'm kind of going on and on about the devil. I'm not going to aim it toward you. Other people are going to find this energy as well. But the devil just, in certain cases, they realize that it's a choice. It's a choice. We can we can ignore the devil. Sometimes it will get difficult. Sometimes you'll have to do some work around, the areas of your life that will, let you ignore whatever that negativity is. But it is something that can be ignored, because it's always a choice. We choose to engage with whatever the devil brings into our life. But Catherine Q, I hope that makes sense. I find that to be an empowering energy for you, because it gives you an awareness indicator that if there is weird stuff in your world, you'll be able to know, okay, we do have power over it, because, that's the one thing we do have power over. And so ourselves. Anyway, thank you for being here. We're going to grab another person. Thank you. Thank you. Nice. Thank you, Jason Slowoski. I appreciate it. He says, I'm not the Jason that asked for a card, but I literally clicked on this seconds before you said you're doing a card for Jason, so I'm hijacking the info. Yes, no, please hijack that info. Absolutely. That's how it works. Even if that is really fun, you guys, you'll notice my nose is literally running on a live stream here. So, but anyway, yeah, you will find, you guys, that even if the cards are read for someone else, even if it's another Jason, a lot of people are going to vibe with that energy. A lot of people are going to feel it. And so Jason Slawowski, if you're feeling that, it's literally about you. That's your guides, and or I choose to discern that those are your guides and your guardians. Hopefully that, facilitated you coming into this moment. You're like, whoa, I just heard a thing. It felt like it was for me. And so I believe it was. I believe it was. Thanks for being at the Fish Creek Park in Calgary, Alberta. I mean that very sincerely. Thanks for tuning in this random moment. Please do step into that role. A lot of people are doing this right now, and I mean it very sincerely. I don't mean this from the, yeah, everyone's doing it right now. I don't mean it like that. I mean that there are lots of people on the earth plane who are coming to the organic awakening, that they have something to teach, they have something to offer. And in my opinion, every single person here does. I think if you find this information, it's because there's something to give or heal or activate. I think some people will come to a stage in the journey in which they will make a choice to become a spiritual teacher or to begin to present themselves as such, as part of what we call a spiritual bypassing process, in which they just, ignore the shadowic elements of themselves. And we're going to see a lot of people go through that process as well. I think everyone goes through it a little bit, but some people come into this, I'll just say it. Some people come into what we're doing here because they want to get famous. And I have to also be real. There's nothing wrong with being, with wanting that type of recognition. But I think we find that people sometimes will do it for an entirely different reason. And you will find a great difference in the information and the energy. And I think also the authenticity. So anyway, I'm not saying that at you, Jason Slawowski. It's just an observation. But hey, man, if you came in here, thank you for being here and for receiving that message. Please push forward. Totally. And for some reason, I think it cut off your comment for some reason. I can't. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it shows up for a second. Now I figured out how to do that, you guys. It didn't show the whole comment, though. That's awkward. Notice that little, I was hoping it would show the whole thing if I put it on the screen. But thank you, Jason Slawowski. Alex Liberato says, is devil and Luciferian synonymous? I hear media personalities scoff here. Thanks. Now that I know how to do this, I'll put you on the screen. Thanks, Alex Liberato. Is devil and Luciferian synonymous? I hear media personalities scoff and laugh at satanic ritual abuse, but to me that sounds like clever wordplay, like plausible deniability. Is it actually Luciferian ritual abuse? Well, by my understanding, I think there are distinct differences in the, just the frequencies, the practices, the philosophies of what we might call, traditional Satanism and the Luciferian doctrine. And I think that when we use the word devil, whether it's used through media or just through generalized communication, it's a little bit of, I don't think the right word I'm searching for is platitude. I think it's something else, but it just denotes something that's overly used and beaten down and has a number of contexts and uses. And so I think that on a general level, based on where you are in your understanding of spirituality, some of us are going to equate devil and Luciferian as being similar. I think when you look at the frequency of both of those words, they're very, very different. I think devil becomes much more of a catch-all term for something that is limiting or dark or otherwise self-serving, whereas Luciferian denotes a whole other, while it is potentially, a lot of similarities, I think it's a lot more about, specific practices or philosophies or even ritual practices. I think that, yes, there's totally Luciferian ritual abuse. There's satanic ritual abuse. There's just straight up, any word you want to tack on there type of abuse. It would be more about how we identify it and our own internalized understanding of what those terms mean, because you're going to hear people just throw them around like crazy. And, I don't know if that answers your question, Alex, or maybe I'm just commenting on your question. But I think it is a good point. It's a cool observation, and I appreciate you hanging out. Thanks, Jen Armstrong. Heading to the treatment room. Have a good time. I appreciate you. Thanks, Rachel Norell Rich. Absolutely. Piscean Soul says, Ivan Teller has very interesting channelings on that. If anyone is interested, he certainly does. He certainly does. He certainly does. Thank you. Oh, here's a new name. Hello, Ban Zach. Thanks for rolling through. Every now and then, I'll just literally choose someone because they have a cool name. So thanks, Ban Zach. We're going to pull a card for you. Okay. we go. Van Zach, what's going on? Thanks for showing up at this seemingly random moment in time on this random channel. Thanks for being here. Here we go, Van Zach. Whoa, what do we got? Oh, we've seen this guy before. It's the Ten of Wands. Van Zach, what are you moving on from? A whole new chapter. Well, I'll explain it again. Van Zach, you've received the Ten of Wands. It's the second time we've seen the Ten of Wands today. And if you haven't heard, the tens will show up at a stage in your journey in which something is closing. It's coming to a close or a chapter's ending. It doesn't always have to be a huge chapter. Sometimes it can be, just the end of the week. However, we find that when the Ten of Wands rolls in, we're being asked to, embrace a change, embrace a transition. Take the things that you've gathered over the past few years, or maybe even this year or in 2020, gather the things you've learned, gather your capability, and have a feeling that if you're able to physically move forward, or sometimes to move on, or to gather your things and literally separate yourself from an oppressive vibe or an oppressive scene, or to just separate. Sometimes with the Ten of Wands, Van Zach, we'll just gather all of our stuff and leave. We'll be like, hey, that's it, I'm out of here. And you'll take off and you'll go to a new location. It's not always physical, sometimes mentally, sometimes emotionally. It depends on what you're leaving. But the tens will show up as a transition in which one aspect of the self or one stage of your experience is coming to a close and another one is beginning. Now, the cool thing about Ten of Wands is that it's neutral. You get to decide if it's a positive transition or a negative transition. You get to decide if we're running towards something new or if we are escaping from something. It's like there's a multi-purpose energy to it that I think for a lot of us is up to the questioner to identify. If there's one thing I can tell you, it is absolutely a transition. All of the tens roll in as a transitional moment in your life or an ending of something. But a lot of times when we do these social media readings and we're just pulling one card, I like to define the energy and allow you to place where it fits in your world, because I said this in the beginning of the broadcast. So for some people, they're like, we know, but I always say that when we do social media readings, it's like opening up this huge closet inside someone's energy, and there'll be so much stuff in there. Some of it we won't even know what it is. Some of it you'll recognize it because you're like, oh yeah, I've got, like one of those. I've seen that before. And so you will be able to identify certain things that will show up within their energy. Sometimes you just see the biggest thing. You just look in the room and you're like, whoa, it's huge. And so, yep, that's it. I've identified the energy as this or that. And so that's why I always like to leave room for people that, you'll have your own idea about this. Anyway, Ben Zach, thanks for hanging out. I'm kind of ranting at this stage, but I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Geraldine Hale. Thank you, Luz. Diana Tomsky, I appreciate you. Let's see, we're going to grab a couple more guys, and then we're going to get out of here. I'm going to grab a random person. Who are they? Who's it going to be? I know, dead air, right, you guys? I'm staring awkwardly at the screen. Okay, here we have somebody new. Hello, Okie55R. I don't know if you're still here, Okie55R, but I appreciate you rolling through in YouTube land. We're going to pull a quick card for Okie55R. Even if Okie's not here, we are still going to pull it. So it might vibe for some of you guys as well. All right, Okie, rolling through. Here we go. Okie55R, you have received the first appearance of the Knight of Swords. Knight of Swords and all the knights in general, they're a process, they're a journey, they can be a task. They don't tend to be like a chapter. Sometimes they'll be people, but when the Knight of Swords rolls in, Okie55R, we may be in an intense stage of the journey with respect to communication, verbal communication, how we speak, the things we're asked to say, the way we're interacting with others. Knight of Swords can be a savior energy. He can be a warrior energy. And Okie, I see you there. Thanks for being here. And so you might find some ways in which you identify with this man on this highly electrified horse with this highly electrified sword, and he's swooping down from the heavens, and he's like, and he's coming in really hard. Because Knight of Swords, I'll be real, Okie, Knight of Swords comes in hard They come down on you hard. They come in fast. Sometimes they're coming in to save your life, and they will do it. That's a lifesaver energy. But let's be real, it can also be very tormenting. It can be incredibly intense. And I would say if there's one way that we can define Knight of Swords that will probably make sense to everyone, is that when the Knight of Swords rolls in, things are going to get intense. You're going to be intense. They might be intense. Words might be intense. Sometimes they have to be intense. Sometimes you have to wield the sword of truth. And so you're going to come in with this crazy, like, boom, and you're going to have to handle it. So in some cases, it's a really powerful and beautiful thing. But I have to be real, because Knight of Swords, sometimes when he's not in alignment, or he's kind of, because there's always a but, right? This is for Oki55 or anyone else. Every now and then, the Knight of Swords will come in and they'll think they're going to handle something. And they're like, I'm here. I'm the one that's going to, and they'll come in and they'll think they're saving the day. But they end up cutting your head off in the process. And yes, they will save the day. Let me be real. They will save the day, but they'll cause a lot of collateral damage. And it'll go, yes, Geraldine Hell says fast. Yes, very quickly. They show up really quickly with lots of intensity. Sometimes people with Knight of Swords energy, you guys, I've been this, maybe you've been this. People with really intense Knight of Swords energy, you'll sort of ask them something, or you'll say something to them, and they're all, ah! And they just come out really hard, really fast. And there's not even necessarily like emotion with it. They're not crazy, they're not psychotic, but you'll just be like, hey, da-da-da-da-da, and you're like, ah, and it all just blows out in this crazy way that it's too intense. Even if it's positive, I think that's another way to understand Knight of Swords. It's just too intense. They come in and they'll shout at you, but it's not even, they're not doing it even in an angry way, although sometimes they will, and it'll be overly, and you're like, whoa, that's so over the top. It's like too much, too hard. Every now and then I've had this energy where it's like someone will minorly inconvenience me, and I'm like, ah, and they're like, okay, all right. And, you have to dial it back, and you're like, oh man, that's my Knight of Swords moment. Piscean Soul says Hulk smash. Absolutely. You'll be like, ah, and then you're like, oh, sorry. Yeah, you have to dial the whole thing back, and it gets a little weird, but for some people that's very necessary. That's the weird thing. For some people it's like you have to be that guy, but for other people we have to not be that guy. It's a very strange thing. And so usually it's a sign of power, though. People with big Knight of Swords energy, when they need to say something, they're going to say it and everyone will hear it. And so I hope Oki55 that hits you in a positive way. I hope that can be an empowering message for you, of empowering intensity. Maybe instead of negative intensity, because Knight of Swords gets severe. He will also, here's another fun, cheesy word. Knight of Swords will get stabby. They want to start like, they want to start like, they get stabby. That's a cheesy word, but I think that might help. I see a couple other people there. Miroslav, we haven't seen you in a while over there in Facebook land. We haven't done a Facebook reading in a few minutes. Let's read a card for Miroslav. Good to see you, my friend. I hope you're doing better out there in your world. Let's pull a card for Miroslav. Boom. Here we go. Live and in the moment. Miroslav. What's going on? Another appearance of the Five of Wands for Mr. Miroslav. Five of Wands. You guys have heard of this by now. Five of Wands can be coming from a chaotic environment, and it's usually in your physical world, because just so you know, guys, the wands happen in the physical world. The wands are the element of fire. They usually take place in our physical world. They're what we do. We do it with our hands. That's wands, something you physically do. Me throwing this card down on the table, that's a wand movement. It's like something I actually did. I threw the card down. Now, if I was in maybe if I was in swords, I might think about throwing the card down, or I would talk about it. You'll talk about it with swords. You'll send the energy, but you might not physically do it. With cups, you'll feel it. You'll hold it inside you. You might talk about it with other people as well, but the wands actually happen. So for Miroslav, Five of Wands rolls in to hopefully tell me that you're leaving it behind. I pray you're leaving Five of Wands behind, because it gets chaotic. Five of Wands doesn't know whether we love him or we hate him. Are we fighting? Are we dancing? Is this choreographed, or are we just in utter chaos? And so I would say the downside of that is that it can feel chaotic. But the upside of it is that if you're able to look at it from a different perspective, And that's kind of the thing with all the fives in tarot, you guys. When you look at them from a different perspective, you realize that a lot of the fives are about our perspective. The Five of Cups is an emotional perspective. The Five of Swords is an energetic, I guess we could say, perspective that can get very difficult. Five of Wands is a physical situation, or the physical perspective that we would change with the Five of Wands is some of us would look at Five of Wands as a battle, right? But if you look at it really closely, you might notice there's almost a shape that they're building. It's almost like everyone's inserting themselves in a way that doesn't necessarily make contact with everyone else. And there could even be a very tender balance, or rather a delicate balance, that can be maintained within a chaotic realm. And so, Miroslav, I'm choosing to discern the Five of Wands as you moving through a stage of chaos into something that's able to view whatever that previous state of chaos is as something new and choreographed, and something that's being seen from a different perspective now. I don't know. I might be totally ranting at you, Miroslav, but thank you for being here. All right. R. Heath says, Matt, what's my sign? My sign is an exit sign. Thank you. Piscean Soul reminds me of snakes when they fight or mate. You can't tell the difference. Actually, yes, you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely. Geraldine says, that's the second time for Five of Wands. It is. Every now and then they show up a couple times here and there. Here and there. Okie55, I saw your other question. They say, so is that my energy, or will I encounter someone? I think it could be your energy and you could encounter someone. It could be both. I think it depends on the context of the scenario. If you are looking for someone right now, even though it was not necessarily the focus of the question, I have to be real. You can absolutely 100% find someone. I think that's one of the overall kind of soft assumptions that people will make, is that they will have to wait, or they'll ask, will someone appear? And I'm approaching this from a very generalistic perspective, Oki, not knowing anything about you, just kind of giving my opinion. But I believe it is absolutely possible that a person can appear in your world, but it depends on what the motive is, what you're seeking, why you might want it. And so I would say just please take that with a grain of salt, but possibilities are endless on Earth at this stage. It's really about not so much what's coming or what's approaching us on our timeline, but more so what we can do to create the outcome or the realities that we're looking for. And I think when we approach it from that perspective, that we are creating the future rather than receiving it, to me, it changes everything. And so, I think, yes, you may encounter someone if that's your desire. If you believe that it is about your energy, then I would say, please allow it to be about your energy as well. And so that's one of the crazy things about especially multidimensional tarot, is that we find that it is all present all the time. And that the answer in many situations is universally yes and also no, based upon the myriad of situations and details and variances within each question. And it seems like I'm going on that one, Oki. I probably am. Thanks for being here. Alex Liberato says, active manifestation, not passive manifestation. We're always manifesting regardless. Yeah, I would like to believe that we are. I think that we're always kind of oversimplifying it when we try to create some sort of verbal process around how that goes. I think everyone it's a little bit different. But yeah, I would like to say actively manifesting rather than just allowing energy. But maybe that's what we're really doing when we're using multidimensional tarot. Maybe it's not so much as we're reading what already is that we're just looking at what, where it's going. Or anyway, could be a number of things. You can tell I'm just going on an endless rant. For those of you guys that are interested in learning how to read tarot like this, and learning how to read the meanings of the cards, and being able to just randomly pull the card and to find out what it means, or how to fit it into your journey, how to fit, especially into your energy. Because those of us that are first starting to learn how to read, it's like we have to learn our energy first. And I think that's kind of one of, I shouldn't say mistake, but maybe that's one of the gaps or the barriers that I have seen other people move through when they first start doing tarot readings, is that they will not have taken the time to develop and understand their own voice as a reader or just as a multidimensional being. And as a result, we tend to mix things up. we don't know where I end and you begin. And so if you're interested in, learning how to navigate and figure out what those things mean, how to use this modality, please do. You can join our tarot class. It's starting next Sunday on March 28th. I put a link in the chat somewhere. I'll put it in there again, you guys, if anybody wants to join it. I know it doesn't show up on Facebook. Thank you to somebody who posted it on Facebook. StreamYard's awesome. They won't let me post on Facebook, but whatever. But yeah, please do join us if you're interested. We're going to be doing a 5-week journey learning how to actually read tarot, what cards actually mean. And the cool thing is, people that were in the last tarot class know you kind of get an ebook because you get all the slides with the meanings of every single card that I've written down over the past few years. So we go through the meanings of everything. Thank you, Geraldine Hale. I appreciate you posting that again. And so you guys can make payments on this. I like to say that because right now, there's a lot of people, many spiritual teachers and multidimensional intuitives teaching on the earth plane. Just one of the things that we do is make it accessible. It's just part of the game. It's what we do in the School of Multidimensional Intuition. So if you're interested, please do reach out via email. You guys can join us next week. Also, if you want to be part of our empathic interfacing group activation in the Blue Flame Collective, please do join us if you're interested. You can join for one session and then bounce. A lot of people heard me rant about Patreon earlier. I'm not one of those people that enjoys, having people like, dependent, or I'm just not one of those people that harvest energy in that way. I tell everyone, you can come to one of our events in the Blue Flame Collective and just do one thing, and then you can totally roll out the door. It's not one of those things where I don't really get offended. Some people are going to be here just to encounter your energy for one time. They'll get what they need and then they'll move on. Other people are going to really vibe with the frequency, and they're going to want to stay, and they're going to want to be a part of something. And so we kind of open it up that way so people can just roll in, then you can roll out. I will say, yes, this is a little bit infomercially here. I will say the people who join the $20 version of the Patreon group, you get the entire chakra course that we did. We just ended it on February 21st. It's a 7-week course with Qigong routines for each week, which was a really wild and fun process. A lot of people did that class with us. I would say almost more than any other class we had done. That was nearly the biggest class all over the world. I'm shocked and grateful. And so I decided to give it away. So people that join Patreon, you will also get that free course. But anyway, in the meantime, thank you for hanging out, you guys. Please do check us out in the coming days. We're going to be doing another live stream next week before the class. We're also going to be giving away another pass to the tarot class next week. Next week's live stream, you guys, is going to be a drawing. I'm telling you this now so you can be a part of it if you want to. Please do join us next week. We're probably going to be back next Wednesday. In the meantime, thank you for tuning in. It means so much to me that you guys found us in the multidimensional realms. You actually heard the call. You experienced a multidimensional frequency and you responded to it. So thanks for coming in. Thanks for hanging out and for being a part of this strange live stream. It's been about 2.5 hours once again. We're live on the earth plane. I'm Matthew. This is the School of Multidimensional Intuition. And please do subscribe. Helps me tremendously. You can click that notification thing or whatever it is. But yeah, come hang out with us. We'll be seeing you in the future. And I love you guys. Stay out of trouble.